Good day and good evening, and welcome back to Walk and Talk with me, Caetsu Chaiji, but you can just call me Kai. Tonight, we take a walk, as usual. It's probably obvious where we're going, even with just a little preview. But I have a reason for it, a little bit. I'm gonna show that reason when we arrive. Not that there really needed to be a reason that we go somewhere specific, it's just go for a walk to somewhere, right? There hasn't been any new content that we could walk over to since last time, so no need for that. But with that said, hey Talima, hey Aridel, hey Mizunashi, hey Saros, hey Tina Lee, hey Naomi, hey Sally, hey Agent Monica, hey Ilya, hey Tabi, and hey Gassel. Hope you're all doing very well. So, doink. I had some weird issues with some odd how do I say frame rate lag spikes on the stronger PC that shouldn't have that. And they suddenly started appearing quite aggressively yesterday. Also, hey Freezy and Visels, hope you're doing well. It's been a while, Visels, hasn't it? And yeah, we are on OCE. And the lag, the frame rate lag, as it were, weren't so bad that it was unplayable, but let's just say the game said it was 60 FPS. If I recorded something, it said 60 FPS. And if I watched the recording, it was smooth 60 FPS. But when I looked at the actual game that I was dealing with, it was not 60 FPS. It was pretty obviously not 60 FPS. Yesterday, the problem seemingly went away when I restarted the PC, which sometimes my PCs act weird after I have been editing videos. But then the problem came back this morning. Also, hey Raging Bull and Bob, hope you're doing well. Agent Monica says, I think it'd be cool to walk to Razortan at some point. That's a good idea. It's technically like an end point. I'll try to remember that. And that's when I then tested, recorded recorded me just jumping around a bit and observed that indeed the recording was fine. There's no lag there, which left one possibility. There was something wrong with my display. As in, I was receiving 60 FPS, the PC was producing 60 FPS, and those were being recorded, but for some reason, they were not being recorded, they were not being shown to me correctly. So, another issue I had ran into since switching to this PC was that I noticed that it had some weird stuttering whenever the game was not in focus. That doesn't matter though, right? My game is lagging when I'm not playing it. And? Right? So I didn't really, pursue that. But then I thought maybe the reason why it's being weird now is because my power settings was not set to high performance. So I changed that, and the stuttering when not in focus went away. But the lag itself, in general, did not. And what I noticed was there was some slight correlation with when I put my second monitor in focus and the frame rate, frame lag becoming significantly worse after that. And so here's the thing, my setup, for those that don't know, is main monitor. Also, hey Noi, hope you're doing well. And Nox, hope you're doing well as well. And nope. I thought I had missed someone else. I did not. My setup, like monitor-wise, is the main one is actually a 4K monitor. That is what you're looking at here, but OBS is set to send like regular HD because it's simply too much, I feel like, to send 4K, and most people are not even, like, a lot of people watch my streams on, like, I think 360p. So it's a lot of effort and a lot of resources, quote-unquote, for very little, right? So it's just regular HD. I also record in regular HD. The monitor can run 120 FPS, but since the last time the monster went down, I discovered that I actually prefer playing on just 60 FPS because the game runs smooth for me. I don't feel like it's lagging. And it's also such a small effort for the PC to do that it is almost completely silent, whereas if I set it to like full blast 120, it's pretty loud, because fans. Not so loud that it's a problem, but I just realized I actually really like it, that it's just silent. It's very nice, and I don't need the extra frames, I'm good. I don't mind. I've also been told that Final Fantasy XIV is like, if you have stability issues, try and fix your frame rate to 60. That helps for some. Also, thank you for celebrating 20 months as part of the Cult of the Pink, Matty. I hope you're doing well. Thank you so much for the support. So 4K monitor on 60 FPS. My second monitor is a regular HD monitor, but it has the capacity for 240 FPS. There's a little bit of a story there. It was supposed to be my main monitor. It's a little bit difficult to explain how I suddenly ended up with a 4K monitor, but I did. But the funny thing is, my secondary monitor, it can run 60 FPS if you set the HD settings, quote-unquote, right, but that, for some reason, massively increases the delay on the frames. I don't know why. But if you set it to a setting where it does not have that massive delay increase, then the lowest frame rate you can choose on it is 85. Some of you who might be more, like, smarter on PCs than me might already realize what the problem is, or was, or might be, if it still is. Because in the same fell swoop that I went, well, I don't need 120 FPS on my main monitor, I can go with 60, I also lowered my secondary monitor to the lowest it would allow, which was then 85. My third monitor is also an HD monitor, but it's relatively old. Its color is a little worse than the other two. It's typically a little brighter for some reason, even if I set it accordingly. It's a little weird, but it's just HD, and it's just 60 FPS. Like, it doesn't go higher than that. Whatever. Now, the way I made these very frequent weird frame lag go away today, like that, there are moments where there's like a quick lag, you know, like if the game suddenly has to load in a bunch of stuff, it like might drop a few, like it might like just have a little cough. To me, that's normal. So that doesn't really on a normal day, that doesn't even like move the needle for me. I'm just like, well, the PC obviously had to load that, and it only has a few milliseconds to load it. So if it has to load more than it expected, of course it'll be late with the frame. Makes sense. Perfectly normal. But the way I fixed it was that I set my second monitor to 120 FPS. Immediately problem went away. Just gone. Which makes sense. I'm guessing, because when it was at 85, if the PC was focused on, you know, I guess, making the frames for the second monitor when it was in focus, then 85 frames per second does not align very nicely with 60 frames per second, so it would produce this extremely laggy frame rate on the main monitor, and this could, of course, also lead to the, like, until it, like, synced back up with a 60 FPS frame rate, it would just lag. Like, it would look mega scuffed. And it went away, as I said, the instant that I set my second monitor to something that is actually a multiple of 60 FPS. So if you're having weird frame rate issues, consider making sure that your monitors have similar frame rates, either exactly the same, that's probably best, or make sure that they're at least multiples of each other, if you can. Then you avoid the problems that I had. And now, hey Cat, hey Copper's Old Fate, hey Melissa, hey Jack, and hey Lichar, hope you're doing well. Did I? Oh. Freezy Lemon says, why not just have every monitor on the max refresh rate? Should avoid most problems. True. So the thing, I imagine that that's probably fine. The way I ran into these settings in the first place was that last time the monster, that is the nickname of this PC, had issues, like Final Fantasy XIV would just crash extremely frequently. Some of you may recall this, it's not that long ago. Also, hey ZipZap, hope you're doing well. I tried setting the frame rate down to 60. It helped for like a day, and then the crashes came back. But the way that I did that was that I fixed the frame rate on the monitor and the game, because sometimes some games, Final Fantasy XIV included, sometimes doesn't care that you've set some specific limit. Like I have had ran into the issue that, like, I would have set it to main display refresh rate as the limit, and my main display refresh rate was 120, and it would be generating like 200 frames per second. Because it could. I just didn't care that I had said, don't do that. And the way that I fixed it was by going, like, into, like, GPU driver stuff and saying, no, Final Fantasy XIV is limited to this in particular. But it is a good suggestion. Maybe I should just set Final Fantasy XIV's limit to one thing, and then, like, just set the monitor itself and say, you can be 120 if you want. Maybe that'll be good. That is a good suggestion. And also, did I miss Melissa? I hope you're doing well as well. And I'm glad to hear that, Jack. Freezy says, why not just have every monitor on the max? I think I just responded to that, actually. But yeah, I have been told that if you have problems with weird frame lag in games, as in not Final Fantasy XIV, games in general, then one of the most typical questions that are asked immediately is, are your monitors on the same frame rate? And most of the time the answer is no. So it didn't surprise me that this caused problems. But I imagine the problem, based on what I observed here, originated from the fact that it wasn't about, like, exactly what frame rate they were at. Like, it wasn't like, oh, well, they need to be exactly the same. It was like, because one was here and one was there, like, they were at vastly different frame rates. That was what was causing problems, I think. And yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking as well, Jack, that I don't need to run my PC ragged playing Final Fantasy XIV. It's also streaming, sometimes also recording, and then, you know, I might sometimes have a video running because I'm watching your clips and such. like all of those things at once, there's no need to spend like 99% of its potential on Final Fantasy XIV. It's actually better if it's not going completely crazy. Also, hey, Frauko, hope you're doing well. And you know what? I'm guessing you came in the middle of this explanation, and you know what? That's amazing, because that is actually exactly what I said too. That it seems like the thing that resolved the problem was that I changed my second monitor from 85 frames per second to 120, which is a multiple of 60, which is what the main one is at. And you had a similar problem, so you reduced your secondary monitors to 120, which lines up with the main one. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Naomi says, funny, while Final Fantasy XIV can run at 100 plus frames, when I set it to locked at 60, it actually fluctuates between 59 and 58. That is interesting, and also something that I've noticed. That it tends to hit around 59, but I think part of the reason is because like a lot of monitors, when you actually go and set it to 60, quote unquote, in like the monitor settings itself, it's often that the amount you actually set it to is like 59 point, like, and then that's like 4 decimals. So maybe that's it. I don't know. Cat says computers are weird. I play with 155 main and 60 secondary and have no issues. True. Remember, the reason why I just set these well, not necessarily remember, but consider that the reason why I just set these settings again on this PC is because with the previous CPU, because the CPU was changed, I set these exact settings of 85 on the second monitor and had no problems. The problem was that the game was crashing, but the game was actually running smooth when it was running well most of the time. So it never occurred to me. And when I switched to the chainsaw, that's my backup PC, it's back there, I set those settings as well, because like, well, that was actually pretty nice, and it quote unquote spared the PC a bit. That's not really a thing, I've been told, but like, point is, it could also run the game at like at a pretty leisurely pace at 60 frames per second instead of running itself ragged, producing like 90. But it was not having weird frame drop issues in the same way, so when they suddenly appear on this one, I'm like, what's going on? Why is this happening? And then, like, basically, PCs are weird. PCs are weird. Freezy says multi-monitor setups with different refresh rates used to be an issue for graphics drivers, but it's so common now that it just works. Yeah, that sounds about right. Like, that's the thing, is that I'm guessing that sometimes it's just weird. Which is also the reason why I'm not saying, thou shalt always make sure your frame rates are similar. I'm saying, if you're having problems, this might help. And it helped for me, it helped for Frauko. So, sometimes it works. And also, very good point, Frauko. Final Fantasy XIV is freaking bananas sometimes. I don't know what to tell you. It's straight up, Final Fantasy XIV is whack sometimes. So, when it sometimes acts weird, it's very likely that it's just because it's Final Fantasy XIV. Because, like, when Final Fantasy XIV acts weird, usually other games are not. Like, it's a specific Final Fantasy issue a lot of the time. Freezes of often setting a monitor to its non-native resolution or refresh rate causes more problems than just leaving it as is, from my experience. You see, the funny thing there is, consider the following. Just preface, I'm guessing that there's just some times that a monitor is just stupid. My second monitor, just reiterating here, when it's set to its native HD option, it can run 60 FPS. But there's a weirdly visible like frame delay. Like you can actually feel that the mouse is slow, like the cursor is slow on it when it's at that frame rate. But if you switch it to the alternative HD that is not labeled as the quote-unquote native or like, you know, the recommended one, then it can go 240, 120, I think it can also go 144, and it can also go 85. I think it can also go 100. Like, it has a bunch of options, but if you set it to the recommended option, it actually caps at 60 and is bad at it. Question mark? But yeah, if you set it to something unusual under normal circumstances, I could imagine that it would, like, not help. Like, if you're already having problems, you should probably not go and mess with that. But yeah, extremely, like, I'm just reiterating, it cannot go down to 60 FPS on the setting where it's actually good. Otherwise, I would have just set it to 60. I wouldn't have had this problem and we wouldn't have had this conversation. But that actually circles back to the original story of how I have a 4K monitor. I found out that my second monitor was not actually producing the 240 frame rate that it was supposed to, and I tried various things to make it do it. And for some reason, my solution to the problem was, well, just like maybe the monitor's just like, maybe I misunderstood something in the monitor. It's not actually like a high frame rate. I'll just buy one. But if I'm going to buy one specifically for that, like I believe this secondary monitor came with chainsaw back when I bought it. If I'm just going to buy a monitor specifically for that, then I'll buy a real beast. So I bought a 4K that goes up to 120, and I would say that is pretty beastly for the fact that I didn't need it at all. And I'm not kidding. I clicked pay. Money was subtracted from my account. I was like, the next step on the list was go and collect it, because I bought it at like a local place, but I paid in advance so that they had it ready for me. The moment I clicked pay, I had like a boom light bulb moment, you know, just like the light bulb kind, just ding. Wait a minute, maybe it's in the NVIDIA settings that I need to do it. And sure enough, that was where I had to look. There it was. Problem solved. But now I also had a 4K monitor. And I'm almost certain that the reason why I had these problems was because I had to go into the NVIDIA settings to change it to this quote-unquote hidden HD option to enable beyond 60 FPS. If the monitor hadn't been so cursed, I wouldn't have ran into this. Oh look, Tandem out there. And yeah, also that Freezy Lemon. Monitors can have box. I'm guessing this monitor. This is monitor 2. The live chat is coming at me in smooth 120 FPS. I get more frames of your wonderful words than I am getting of the actual game we're playing. Isn't that fantastic? Maybe this specific monitor's bugged. Maybe that's what's wrong. Also, Tedman says Handmark. Oh yeah, I have like sometimes. When we're in the odd patches, where you can technically buy upgrade materials with nuts, I had this epiphany in 7.1 that was like, wait a minute, I could do these, and then like, that's not so bad, it's pretty fun, little bit of thing to do, and then eventually I'll be able to buy some upgrade materials for tome gear. In hindsight, should just join a hunt train. Really think about it. And then I would grab them. Maybe I'd do it like once or twice, and I would still grab them. But then when I lose interest in doing it, there's no reason to throw them away. If I ever go, I want to do hunt marks. Like if I suddenly felt like doing this, I could just go and do it. And then I could grab another set, because the offering of a hunt, like of a poster with hunt marks, resets daily. But you having done a previous day's hunt marks does not invalidate your opportunity for the next one that has already reset, unlike some other daily resets and weekly resets and whatnot. So that's why I have that. Knowledge on target, next target. Nice, Aradil. Gazel says Final Fantasy XIV can't be older than some of its players because it has an age restriction. Isn't Final Fantasy XIV from 2011, technically? Isn't 14 technically from 2011? Any knowers on that one? September 2010. And Final Fantasy XIV is for 13 and up, Gazel. It's a teenager game. Feel free to tell them, huh? He says, we're more important, TBH. Yeah, exactly. I have said this before. And that is also, like, originally, back when I did the Party Finder Savage prog in mid-Endwalker, part of the reason why I stopped again, part of it, didn't they up the rating to 16? I don't know. Did they? If they did, then true, then it would... But who knows if everyone is actually legally upholding that age restriction. I mean, I started at World of Warcraft when I was like 11. Just put my mom's name on the account. I think. Something like that. Hey, Lana. Hope you're doing well. They didn't do some things they wanted to do in Shadowbringers because the rating would go up if they had. Oh, that is interesting. I lost my train of thought. Malaysia says, honestly, for a game this old, it's still, to me, the most fun I've had out of an MMO since the fall of City of Heroes villains. Oh. What was it I was talking about? On trains? I feel like there was something after that. And then I got myself distracted. Peggy 16 though. Huh. Starting WoW at 11? Oh yeah. I feel like it was a completely different topic, but yeah, I started playing WoW at like about 11 years old, I think. Which is not old enough. But that didn't stop me. Or my brother. Although he might have been 13 by the time we got into WoW. But that is actually an interesting thing. I'm not saying that itself is what is required to be really good at a game. Not at all. In fact, rather possibly the opposite. I mean, if you get too deep into a game, like if you get deep into a game at a young age, you'll be amazing at it. But if the game changes substantially, then you're good at an old version of the game, right? So not always an advantage, but sometimes it might be worth considering that some people that got into Final Fantasy XIV in A Realm Reborn, some of those players, like, they might have come from World of Warcraft, and if they did, then there is some there's of course differences between the games, but consider that someone who picked up Final Fantasy XIV as their first MMO and never played WoW, for instance, they would be at a substantial disadvantage, like gameplay-wise, as opposed to someone who had played WoW for 10 years, or like 8 years at least, something like that. Before Final Fantasy XIV, before A Realm Reborn even released, which matters because A Realm Reborn's combat was at least, and probably kind of still is, heavily inspired by World of Warcraft. So you have players that are basically told to compete with other players who magically have like nearly a decade of experience that these other players just couldn't possibly have. Like, it's a new game, how can you be so good at it? It would be like picking up your first shooter and just like on release day just getting dumpstered because, well, everyone else played, I don't know, Counter-Strike for a decade beforehand. Gandalf says, I don't know many WoW players who came over seem to not understand the AoE snapshot thing. I mean, gamers in general typically didn't quite get that one. Because that's like a unique aspect of Final Fantasy XIV. Like that is a 14 jank. That is something you wouldn't possibly be able to know in advance. But if you understand like game logic, it comes around. Yeah, exactly. It's a new car. How can you drive it so well? It's a good point. If you understand that games are games in the way that they are, then sometimes you have an advantage. For instance, some players believe that jumping over fire on the floor in WoW, and if you play Final Fantasy XIV, you already know that's not going to work. If you jump over fire in WoW, they think that they take less damage from it or dodge it altogether. The fire doesn't care about your vertical position. You're probably not surprised to know that, because the fire in Final Fantasy XIV also does not care about your vertical position. Jumping interacts with your, like, horizontal position in a specific way that sometimes means you can, like, maybe get lucky anyway. But for the most part, jumping over death pits, like death floor, kills you anyway. Like, it just kills you anyway. So if you understand how these kinds of games think, then you have a significant advantage over someone who doesn't. And if you already understand that, well, in World of Warcraft, the vertical direction doesn't really matter, so it probably doesn't in this game either, then you have a slight advantage there. M1S begs to differ. Are you thinking about the hole in the actual holes in the floor, Milo? Also, hey, Cole, and Zaf, and Milo. Hope you're doing well. They know that fire has height too. Fair point, Yassel. You can jump over the piece of missing floor. That's true, but they are literal terrain that are missing. So yeah, like in that case, they're not death area. They're not death area. They're literally, there's no floor there. It's like they actually changed the field of move, like the actual field you can move on, I think. So it's not quite the same as imagine for a moment, as an example, Imagine if on E6 he freed Garuda from Eden, that instead of there just being a death pit in the middle of the arena for that that specific phase, they just make a hole in the ground. And if you actually walk into it, you fall and then you die. If they made it like that, then if you jumped just right, you would be able to pass over it. I don't know what would happen if you used a gap closer, though. I imagine you would fall. You would definitely fall if you're like gap closing to something on the other side, but also, hey, Ensenbach, hope you're doing well. The German rating system is usually the least lenient of them all. No idea why it's specifically different for Final Fantasy. Is there a lot of blood in Final Fantasy XIV? I don't know if that matters, but it makes me think of something funny with League of Legends many years ago. Way back. Specifically the EU version of League of Legends replaced blood by either straight up not having it, or they colored it a different color. Notably, Vladimir just turned into oil instead of blood, like just straight up black sludge instead of red sludge. And I believe the story went that it had to do with the German age rating system. Also, now I think I remember what the train of thought that I lost. Agent Monica asked back when we were still in like halfway through Labyrinthos, what's your favorite song or theme released in Dawntrail? Well, I really like the Solution 9 theme. That's why I use it in my videos. I don't know if it's necessarily my favorite, but if we assume it's like, you know, zone themes, then it would probably be Solution 9. Is it Smile? It's not Smile, but I don't think it's as bad as people say it is. Lana says, I know a guy who used a gap closer over a hole and over a wall incidentally in the chaotic raid. Yeah, I do too. It's me. It's really funny that was even a possibility. But yeah, if anything in Dawntrail counts, then I think it's I think it's phase 2 from Wicked Thunder. Jumping over M6 lava would be fire. I wonder how it works with the Winged Muse. Wing Mark, it might put you down for the count to give you an invincible tag. Maybe. Why does Tancred get to gap close in Don Meg's final boss and we don't? Well, technically, doesn't he jump over it and then run to the boss? Like, does he not actually use like some sort of super jump? Cook Edible says, what's interesting about Smile is that although it gets a bad rap, some of the best DT soundtracks, like Solution 9's theme, are based on Smile. I didn't notice, but that is really funny. I'll say Rithian, hope you're doing well. Also, Cook Edible, and Yannick, and Sylvia. He uses hide and jumps over. Huh. Yeah, that's fair, Freezy Lemon. I don't think that's necessarily unusual with, like, main themes of an expansion. Isn't, like, a lot of the themes of Shadowbringers and Endwalker also, like, permeated through the entire expansion with various, like, zone themes and, like, duty themes having like references to it. Sylvia says, I do wish vertical position was a bit more effective, but Dragoon backflipping should get over certain obstacles. They should, but part of the problem with that is that different races backflip lower or higher. Like, but either if you are a Lalafell, like, rather, grab a Lalafell and a literally anything else, and then have one use backflip, and then have the other use backflip. Observe that the backflip from the Lalafell is significantly lower down to the ground. The same thing happens with, I believe, the V pose, where the Lalafell doesn't jump very high, where all the other races jump a little bit higher. So if they wanted to make sure that backflip could jump over certain obstacles, they would have to make sure that they made it so that all Dragoons at least backflip to that height. Otherwise it'll look weird. They should add heroic leap jank to 14. I think it's really funny because I feel like some of the time where heroic leap doesn't work in WoW, if it had worked and it was Final Fantasy XIV logic, it would have just dragged you towards it and you would fall in a hole and die. Like, the reason why it works and then causes quote-unquote problems in WoW is because heroic leap actually moves you vertically as well. Mizunachi says, I have had an experience in Don Meg of a healer trying to rescue me over the pit in Don Meg, so they enforce it on a case-by-case basis. Just to be sure, I'm assuming the rescue didn't work. We had the slices right during M8, prepare for Leap of Faith during M12. Oh boy. That would be pretty funny. It's just suddenly a jumping puzzle in the middle of the boss fight. Even worse if it's actually a hard one. Frauko says, I would say that applies for the vast majority of games. Main theme equal core is theme motif sprinkled to the rest of the tracks. Yeah, that is light motifs, right? Not all games do it. Some games just like straight up don't. But many do. Jumping puzzles during encounters is actually a thing in Guild Wars 2. That does not surprise me considering how many there are. Alright, Tadama, good luck. Elusive jump is used exclusively to jump off something and die? Oh. I'll say False Geek. Hope you're doing well. But yeah, that is correct, Milicia. Even, like, basically every action players have access to that says that it teleports you or moves quickly or anything like that. It's just a quick movement. It basically grabs your character and just shoves it across the arena. The funniest example of this is that rescue is a knockback. Rescue is a knockback. That's why Arm's Length and Surecast blocks it. Like, straight up, you use rescue on someone, what it does is it effectively conjures a knockback from the necessary angle with the necessary force to punt the person over to where they need to be. It's so weird. At least dashes can be used to dodge fall damage and stuff like Occult Crescent or Eureka. Yeah, you can also use it in PvP. It's one of the funniest ways to escape death is if you're like fighting near a ledge or something. If you just have like a dash or something. If you can, like, for instance, a Reaper can just use Hell's Ingress off a ledge and then they'll just appear at the bottom of it. Healthy and fine. Cat says some games use light motifs too much. Lifelight became obnoxious with how much it played in Smash Ultimate. Fair point. I think part of the problem there is also that that's a game that is basically like a big mega mix of so many games that it almost feels unfair to all that music that it's just lifelights every time. It's just, oh, is this maybe a theme relevant to the game we are like dealing with right now? Nope, it's lifelight. It's specifically for this game. Yep. Again. He says, I love this. It's the kind of thing you just do to try and make it work in your existing code without changing the code base. Yeah, it is a little... It says a lot about how it explains a lot about how mega janky Rescue is when you realize that it's basically a knockback in a trench coat. No, it's not a knockback. It pulls you to my location. Sure. Erdil says, when Dancer was first announced, I thought it would have equivalence to Anadang in all directions. That would have been funny. Annex says, well, game calls it draw in. Don't they say arm's length makes you immune to draw in and knockbacks or something? Hey, Tape. Hope you're doing well. There's a technical difference. That's fair. Arguably, you could also say that Rescue is a draw-in effect. But the same deal is that whether you view it as a knockback placed behind your target that then gets them kicked over to you, or if it's a pull-in from your location that still applies basically some amount of force to the target and then gets them to slide over to you, it's the same result. But yeah, the idea that it doesn't actually like grab the person and place them next to you, but instead just shoves them is pretty funny. Especially because, I mean, World of Warcraft already had Leap of Faith, not the jumping puzzle, long before Rescue was implemented, I'm pretty sure. For those that don't know, Leap of Faith in WoW is also called Life Grip. The reason for that is because Death Grip, I believe, predated Life Grip, and Death Grip is a Death Knight action that basically grabs the enemy and just plops them down in front of you, assuming they're not immune to it. And it's straight up just yoink, like they just get shoved across the sky over to where you are in less than a second, just boom. I think this is it. And Life Grip does the same, but it's for allies. So you just go splat and places them in front of you. Hey, Smarmy. Hope you're doing well. Cute bunny. Holy Priest grieving with Leap of Faith. You see, that's the funny thing, is that WoW has so many wacky items, primarily from engineering, I believe, like Swap Blaster, in addition to things like life grip, that at some point, I'm not actually sure when, but at some point, they added an item that, I believe for 2 hours at a time, so it's like a consumable, makes you immune to those kind of effects. And the amount of shenaniganery and memeing and griefing that was done with things like Swap Blaster and Life Grip meant that it was very common that a lot of players, while raiding, would just have that on. And like, if you then actually needed Life Grip, can you turn off the thingy? Oh, right. And then you immediately get memed around with Swap Blaster. For those that don't know what a Swap Blaster is, it's just a silly item you could own. I believe you could only use it while not in combat. But it just swaps you and your target party member's position. And you can do some extremely obnoxious stuff with something like that. I remember, like, I was in a raid team for a while where, like, there were a lot of players in it, of course, but there was, like, 2 cliques, or rather there was 1 clique and then like people that were normal, I would say, and that clique thought it was really funny to mess with one of my friends in particular. There was one time where we, like, pull timer comes up, and then like 2 seconds before the pull starts, my friend suddenly finds himself like 200 yards away from the boss fight. Somehow, it's maybe an exaggeration, but basically they had lined up in a line, like, just, they lined up in a line. Amazing, Kai. And then just swap blast, like, baton past him across the field. He was just like, what happened? Like a clique. I think it's spelled like this? Yeah, clique. Conceptually, that sounds funny. Yeah, exactly. Conceptually, it was hilarious. The problem was that those people were regularly messing with people. Like, frequently. Especially my friend. And also a lot me. For no good reason. And this was during prog. Like, this was during prog. So that's not very considerate, is it? Also, hey, Kick and Wait, hope you're doing well. That sounds hilarious if the victim is game for it. Yeah, exactly. The thing is, if I had been the one doing it, then he might have gone, yeah, that was pretty funny, but don't do that. That's a little bit obnoxious while we're progging. Can you not do that? But because it was them, it became a problem. Sally says, as far as I know, Americans, Brits, and Aussies all say click when saying clique. Fair enough. In Denmark, we very specifically say clique. Which is funny. It's a borrowed word. Kjolter's Evoker can just pick you up and fly you somewhere. Does that mean that the evoker also has to drop in there? Like, if they grab you and try to drop you in fire, do the evoker also have to park in the fire? Or can they actually grab someone, fly, and then just dump them halfway? That's also why I say some other words from other languages in a weird way sometimes. Because we use, for instance, croissant is the Danish word for exactly that. Engagement, the red mage action, with Danish pronunciation, engagement. Cookedible says loss of control in game design is a thing to be careful about, especially if you give agency over your character to other players. Yeah. True. It is funny on the topic of rescue, actually, considering how extremely rare it is that I've seen players using rescue actually for with malicious intent. It is incredible how many players, which also not that many, but surprisingly many, all things considered, that react so incredibly negatively to being shoved with rescue. Like I have heard some stories where players are actually getting rescued to safety. Like, they actually got helped, and they get mad about it. Couples Old Fate says, I've heard you can be banned for griefing with rescue. I mean, you can be banned for griefing in general. But I'm pretty sure you cannot get punished for, like, making a mistake. Exactly, Entropic Ghost. The main situation I've been griefed with rescue has been Sip grabbing me off a ledge as the boss dies. Or you guys doing that. And it's like if we don't wipe, I'll just, like, at best I'll be shocked that you did. But, like, not gonna be mad about that. I'll be a little annoyed if it leads us to wipe. But other than that, I don't really mind. Freezy Lemon says, I only rarely see rescue being used in general unless my friends troll me with it. Part of the problem with rescue is that because of how slowly it works, even if you had full good intentions, like completely good intentions, it might still not work. Like, you often have to rescue early to make it work. Yeah, about 55 minutes for that walk. That's pretty good. Now, the reason I said I would say why we went specifically here when we got here is that Nil, part of the community, made a wonderful piece of artwork which features exactly this place. And I would like to show that off to all of you how wonderful it is. It's also in the Discord server. It's pinned in the art gallery. But it is this. It's very nice. It's me talking up a storm, and then there's the ducks. Some of them, one of them just a duck, one is a mentor duck, and then there's the sprout ducklings. And I understand they went to great lengths to try and figure out exactly how my outfit looks for these walks without asking me. Ooh, 4 speech bubbles. Well, I do say a lot. It's really, really amazing. Exactly, Neil. It is walk and talk. Exactly. Thank you so much for this. It's really awesome. I think we have talked about how it almost looks like a you know, a line of ducks and their ducklings. So it's perfect. It is perfect. It just, while we're at it, Nil, have you only shared this with the Discord server, or have you also posted it on some sort of social media? Just a quick heads up, it will not work if you try to send a link, but if you can explain it, if you have shared it anywhere else, then maybe me or Ardell can find a link so that people can find that. You can also send the link directly to Ardell and they'll share it. You only posted the dock part on your blue sky. Fair enough. But it's up to you. If you share with Ardell, then Ardell can then post a link about it if anyone wants to see more of your art. Not here to steal anything. Sure. Right, so clips. I have a bunch. I have, let's see, 2 clips. Hey Emir, hope you're doing well. I have 2 clips from Zaf. I actually have a clip from Emir. I have a clip from Kat. I have a clip from Gazla. I have a clip from Shaq. I have a little clip from Milo. So if you are in the chat, make sure to let me know that you're there. Zav is in a dungeon right now. Yeah, no worries, Melissa. The main reason I'm asking is exactly because if someone has posted a clip in the clip review room, then I usually, unless they've expressly said that they will not, that they first of all won't be able to be there, but they also don't mind that I review it without them, unless those things are both true, then I will wait with viewing a clip until the person who sent it to me are available, so that, you know, they have a chance to experience live what the reaction was. Hey Kinrao, hope you're doing well. Yeah, there's some that are cooking, there are some that are on duties. Let's see if we can grab some of those that might not be actively busy. But we can take Milo's clip. That's a short one. Hey Catfish Jr., what do you mean? And also hope you're doing well. Are you asking how you can have a clip? Or how you get here? Yeah, we have a short clip here from Milo, which is from M7S. It's during a wipe. So I don't think there's that much to gain if you're like, oh, I don't want to get spoiled on tactics or anything. However, I believe there's some coyote time happening here. How far into M7S have you guys gotten? We're still working on phase 3. But we also still have some hiccups in phase 1 and 2 here and there. That's amazing. Phase 3 is platform 3. Phase 3 is when you're down in the fire area, yeah. Say Ham, hope you're doing well. It's a Looney, yeah, exactly, it's a Looney Tunes moment. I didn't know that you could halt your fall by using Primal Rend. But what's also quite interesting is that it doesn't look like you're even, like, you're a little bit out from the platform. But you didn't, like, shove into the platform. That was what I would have expected would happen. Me Looney Tunes, exactly. You can do that with every targeted gap closer. Like, it actually pauses your fall. Huh. That is... Wow. That's quite pixelated. What? Wow. It's falling apart. Feels so hard the pixels got lost. Next up, we can check Emia's clip. It's a P11N solo run. I don't know how much there, like, if there's any particular things that stand out that are, like, worth, like, focusing on, but we at least, like, see how it starts before we jump too much. You didn't even skip the cutscene. If I remember correctly, you managed to duo this fight back in Endwalker, right? I think? Or was it just super early Dawntrail? Wow! Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Come, my allies! Boom! I'm gonna have a problem here. You soloed it on Paladin, right? Have you changed something about your, I think you've changed some things about your, either you've changed to a different monitor or something? I've changed something else? Because I'm pretty sure usually your cursor actually lines up with your buttons. It doesn't seem to do that anymore. Endwalker hitbox incoming. I'm pretty sure there's technically like a small area out here where you're actually out of melee range. Also, okay, so mega nitpick, just super mega nitpick here. That's you can stand over there and still be in melee range. Because of Endwalker hitbox. You know. Okay, sorry. Does this fight have any melee downtime? I think there can be a point where your GCD might drift momentarily depending on what you choose to do. Oh, yeah. Sorry, Cole. I don't know why I forgot. That's my bad. Sorry about that. There's a knockback, right? Yes, exactly. I can't remember if it happens frequently enough that you can't just knock back and mute it every time. That's totally fair, Cole. Normally I actually remember to mute it when there's sound on the clip. That's my bad. Thank you for reminding me. You don't want to knockback immune it when it's light. That's true. The double lines from the side might be problematic. Also, the stack tank buster thing could be problematic depending on where someone carries it. That's true. The double lines from the side are easily forgotten because I'm pretty sure in your average group nowadays it's actually skippable. Or nearly skippable. Like a lot of the time people don't even realize it's there. I think. Wink. Yeah, that is at least happening frequently enough that you can't just knockback immune it every time, but that does remind me that it doesn't shove you far enough that it's a problem. Now to take your measure. Boink. The only problem Mimic mechanic, quote unquote, is sticks. That is pretty funny. That's the multi-stack, right? Yep. Yeah, I could see that, combined with you only have so many Shadowed Vigils. Yeah, definitely, probably mitigatable. The big problem for Dark Knight is, you know, recovering again if you lose a lot of HP. Now, the big question is how frequently that comes up. If I remember correctly, wasn't this also something you were, like, working with when you did it on Paladin? That was the danger zone? Happens once every 3 minutes? Yeah, then you would have Living Dead for every second one. I got locked out of 14? Well. You look away. You turn off the music and look away for 5 minutes and the game kicks you. This fight is really easy. I could imagine. Usually when I have eaten at all in my Wondrous Tales, no, not Eden, sorry, Pandemonium in my Wondrous Tales, if it's 9 to 12, I just don't bother. Not because I can't do it, but because it takes way too long to solo them. And yeah, I solo them because I see BEA queuing for them. And I think it's funny to solo some of these things. I'll just do something else if it's 9 to 12. But if it's 5 to 8, I'll usually do P6. And if it's 1 to 4, I'll do P1. And they also take a while. Told us I second chance roll whatever the fastest they are I get is like 9 times. The reason why I don't do that is by just doing like usually there's like 4 or 5 things that are reasonably manageable, so I'll just do that. Like, do those, and then I'll, like, repeatedly refresh the fastest one. But I like to save some, because then I can shuffle to get a slightly better roll. And that's the only reason why I don't just spam the fastest thing. It's also something that it doesn't take that long. It's like, it's usually like on Tuesday most of the time. It's like one of the things I'll do when I log on. I'll do that while I figure out what I need to get done. Let's just do that. Maybe I'll get an idea for a video while I'm soloing the thing. And I usually, by doing mentor roulettes every week, I'll usually have like fully restocked by the next Wondrous Tales. Are there any mechanics in this fight that he just stops doing? Or does he just loop everything? Loops. I mean, I'm guessing it loops until you're done. Solo thoughts. Sometimes it's not that long to think about it. You'll get like Ravana, and before he even gets a chance to say "Rejoice in the glory of combat," he's dead. It's a rather long fight. Yeah. When I do P1 or P6 solo, I reach a point where like I'm just like going through the motions of the fight, and I'll be like, oh, I'm halfway through the fight. Let's see, what does the duty timer say? Well, in that case, there's probably this many minutes before I'm done. Oh, he's at 40%, and there's probably this long left. There's this much. Like, I'll like just sit there and calculate numbers while basically waiting for the fight to finish, because I'm not going to lose. So like, and I could imagine this would be the same. Like, if I tried to solo this fight, I would definitely be like, right, he's past 50%. Well, I'm probably done in like 13 minutes then. And I'd probably be like, that's really long. That's really annoying. I remember I did that with Hegemony P6. Then I saw how long it took before I hit 50%. I was like, oh man, I should probably not do this again. And I think I did that again then. I was like, why did I do this again? That sounds pretty good, Cat. It's a long fight, but it doesn't look like a hard one. I mean, if you look at what happens whenever Styx comes up, it is a thing where if you don't focus up when that happens, you could just be sent back to the start, just like that. It doesn't take much, seemingly, but if you forget, then it's over. Light every time. Yeah, I feel like I've noticed that too with this fight, that it has a very strong case of the Squeenix RNG. And yeah, indeed, Donka, it's the normal version, don't worry. Hope you're doing well, by the way. I don't think you can solo the Savage version, especially not when the normal version takes like 27 minutes. It's felt hard on Paladin. Considering that the thing that threatens you, the things that threaten you, come in so rarely, the fact you can TBN every time something small comes in and just completely nullify it, is 1 point for Dark Knight. Another is that if Styx is every 3 minutes, the fact that Living Dead is ready for every second one is pretty huge, when Hallowed Ground is only available for every third one. People are soloing Eden, so yeah. It is worth pointing that out, because I'm pretty sure even at the very end of Endwalker, it was really hard and unreliable to solo O12S because of Phase 1. And that was 20 levels behind. I think that's something worth considering. That sometimes a fight will just not be easy to push over because of a specific thing in the fight. You do most of the Stormblood ones in Endwalker. Correct. Most. But I think it comes down to what it is that makes it soloable or not, Ymir. Like, question, is it possible to solo E8N? That's Shiva, Eden's Shiva? Is that soloable? On normal? Isn't Tsukuyomi Extreme tricky to solo to this day? Not anymore, because it's possible to beat her before Meteor, I believe. But even at the very end of Endwalker, you did need to do some very fancy footwork to put down the Meteors just right, solo. Because you just barely couldn't skip them in late Endwalker, I believe. Solo. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that the reason E8N is not soloable is, if I remember correctly, she forces the intermission. Even if you get it to 1 HP, she forces the intermission, and you will fail the intermission if you're alone. And there's nothing you can do. You will fail it. And the thing, I'm just saying, not like it's some sort of competition that matters, but I'm just saying that when bosses have that kind of advantage, it's like, yeah, of course that Eden fight will stay quote-unquote relevant forever in terms of soloing, because it's basically like, imagine if a boss just, as its first mechanic, was that it just used a mechanic that checked if there was at least 2 players. And if there isn't, it kills you. That would stop you from soloing it, but it wouldn't be very impressive. Yeah, I believe so, Kat. Oh, 12S is still a coin flip. Is it? Can you not stop them before that the problem mechanic comes up in the first place? I can't remember. That's why I'm asking. But specifically, I believe in Endwalker, the problem was that you couldn't kill, like, even if you got the lucky configuration, you couldn't kill them before the second time the mechanic came up. Which meant that you needed to contest with both versions of the mechanic, and one of them was an automatic loss. Now you can beat them before the second time solo, so I don't know if you can beat, like, I thought you could beat them before the first time, but if you can beat them before the second time, then it's a coin flip. You just need to get the easy configuration and then kill them before they swap it. And the easy configuration is that the 2 Omega clones will either get buffed if they're close or far. And because you're solo, obviously, you need them to get stronger when they're far apart, so that you can have them close together and kill them. Enzenbach says, I never really gotten deep into soloing stuff, so this might be a dumb question. That's not a dumb question. How do debuff vomit mechanics work out solo? Most of the time, if it's like each player gets like 4 debuffs, you just get 4 debuffs. Usually you'll get the debuffs associated with your role, but it's not guaranteed. And a lot of the time, the debuff vomit itself is like, you know, it's not that particularly interesting if it's a problem for the other players. It's very problematic if you get a combination of debuffs that is supposed to be resolved by a combination of debuffs from someone else, because there isn't a someone else, so you'll just not be able to do it. Similarly, maybe not the same idea, but if there's like a mechanic that is like, oh, you need to soak 8 towers and you're alone, then the deciding factor, the question of whether it is soloable or not, comes down to, well, can you survive 7 of the towers exploding in your face? Whether that means 7 vuln stacks, or, I don't know, 7 damage down stacks, let alone the damage it will do. Like, that's what it comes down to when soloing. But that is funny that Dark Knight would feel like the easier solution because it has the faster recharging invuln. That's why P10 isn't soloable right now. Yeah, I could imagine. The 8 pillars that need to be soaked. Or they go kaboom. But yeah, the general idea in Zambag is you'll get your amount of debuffs and you have to deal with it most of the time. And sometimes debuffs just won't work. Look at the play guide. Well, I logged in and then I didn't realize it was open. I've just never bothered to go into the settings and turned it off. Right. Next we could go with Cat's Clip. Cat's Clip is M6S. Just to be clear. So if you're like, well, I'm progging that blind, just take note of that. It'll probably be safe to be back within like, I don't know, 20 minutes, maybe even 15. But now I've said it, so I have a chance to flee. Aerodil will probably write a message in the live chat when it's safe, if that helps you. Oh yeah, there's no sound. True. I can put on the Ultimate Thule theme again. So, Cat left some notes mentioning that there's some tendency to prefer the flare. Assuming it doesn't cause any problems, there's no big deal there. Overcapping some resources will happen. And there's some places where shortcasts are used with dual cast and whatnot by accident. Alright, Melizia, enjoy your day. Okay, yeah, it's very, very quiet, Cat. That's true, it's very quiet. The Red Mage POV. Now I get to see how it looks to be in the, like, from the DPS point of view of being not in Narnia for the ad phase. Oh yeah, also for anyone that hasn't noticed yet, red balance gauge unlocked. But yeah, sometimes when you're soloing stuff in Zimbabwe, it might be easier when doing it alone. Smart. I was wondering why you were going closer. And to that question, Freezy, I'm pretty sure it's always been there. Then we have the line. But why? So you have something to ask about. It does not actually surprise me in the slightest that you said that you have some points where you'd overcap gauge, because, like, I'm just saying, like, I'm just reiterating from my point of view of this fight. Take note that I used ley lines twice in the opener. Like, I just used them back to back. Like, I'm the pink blob in the party. I'm somewhere. But the next time you see me use ley lines is in the ad phase. Like, I straight up, this whole section, I don't even try to do a proper 2-minute burst, because there's too much. I don't see any good times to burst. And I see the two. Actually, let me just rewind. The 2-minute burst seems to be starting here. No, actually, no. You see, when does the first raid buff come out? Here, and then there's some buffs that come in like shortly after. I don't think I could put down ley lines here. I could probably put down ley lines there. If I know where I'm supposed to be early enough, I could definitely have like ley lines for most of the burst. Maybe I should try that next time. Hey Shaq, hope you're doing well. We started with Milo's clip, but I guess Chaos has developed further. Remember retrace, and that's true, Emir. The problem is that if you want to use retrace without losing any value, then you basically have to, like, GCD, move quickly over to where you want to place it, retrace before your next GCD. Which means that you have like 2 seconds. It's really hard to move it perfectly. Like, you can of course save it, but if I hold my ley lines, I can just use the whole thing when it's possible to use the whole thing. But it's true, I could use retrace to maybe make it work. But it's just, there's too much movement right when the 2-minute burst happens, as far as I can see. Oh right, I'm not a pink blurb. I have a pink shirt, but I'm mostly orange like everyone else. There's a lot of interrupted casts from ads dying. Oh, you as well? Quad weave! That happens. Did you have a quad weave while I was talking about something else? Let me just go back. Just see this. Oh, nice. Oh boy, this looks like a melee combo that needs to happen. Overcap. Oh, good call to use the black spell at least. Maybe I missed the quad weave entirely. And it's even further back. I'm guessing it is. Alright, Ham. Enjoy your evening. And the main reason I was interested in the chord weave was because maybe there was a way to fix it. Please? Huh? Nani? What? Okay, that is some interesting tech. That's fascinating. So melee combo 2, 3 reprise without breaking it, and then AoE and more AoE while the cat is there. Yeah, I know, cat, but I honestly, it didn't even occur to me that reprise can be used at all without breaking your like your combo like that. That's amazing. That's pretty gigabrain. Hey, that's smart. Never occurred to me that you could do that, but it makes perfect sense to do that. Out of all the things to not break your melee combo, they chose reprise. Well, in fairness, I believe the reason is that your oh boy, so many interrupted casts. I'm glad it's not me, but it sucks. But this also happens to me a lot in this phase. Like a lot of things where it's just I don't get to cast something. Especially if I'm trying to hit the cat. And then it jumps out of range. That's fun. But the reason why reprise does not break it is exactly because like the stacks you get from your melee combo are forfeit if you cast a spell. And reprise is not a spell. Which is to say, if you did 1, 2, 3 and then just used riposte again, that wouldn't break your combo either. Like it would still let you do the magic burst afterwards, because it's weapon skills. It's fine. It's really weird. Does max level red mage have 3 follow-ups for every single melee combo? Yes, they do. They have a 1, 2, 3 melee combo that leads into 3 magic things. And if they do the AoE combo is just 1 button, but since Dawntrail, it becomes a bigger and bigger spin. That goes 1, 2, 3. And then it becomes a the magic burst. The even weirder part about it, Cole, is that the melee combo part takes about 2 GCDs of time, whereas the magic burst part takes 3. So the 6-step thing is 5 GCDs long. Which I believe used to be, more obnoxious, or not necessarily obnoxious, more awkward to deal with in Endwalker. I don't know if it's still awkward in Dawntrail, but in Endwalker, a major part of optimization was making use of the instant casts you had to make sure that Flesh and Contra 6 didn't misalign. Cat and Sally both mentions that the AoE melee combo is slightly faster. It's quite awkward. Freezy says, do you just let Manification drift into your 2-minute burst, considering the earlier this shorter cooldown? I believe the optimization is it comes down to a specific question, and that question is, does it give you an additional Manification? If yes, then yeah, you might actually use it on cooldown. Might. But if it doesn't give you an additional one, it's way easier to just use it on the 2-minute. But there are ways you can get super fancy with it. For instance, you can use Manification on cooldown and then just do filler spell combos. Oh yeah, this looks a little dicey. Double deep stat. But you can use Manification on cooldown and then just use like your filler combos, like your spell fillers, just dual cast stuff. And then when raid buffs come out, of course you'll lose out on the 5% damage bonus on the 6 attacks. But then you can do your melee combo into a burst and pre-fulgence. Like you can just basically smuggle those into the 2-minute burst. You can only do that so many times because each time you do it, it'll be 10 seconds sooner and 10 seconds sooner. And if you get it 30 seconds before the 2-minute burst, then you have to at least start the melee combo. Like you have to start it at some point before. But yeah, there's a lot of things you can do. But it's definitely a lot easier to just not. It's the same kind of discussion with mana font on Black Mage. Yes, you can use all these pre-mana font extension shenanigans. I have talked about this in my transpose line shenanigans video for Black Mage. You can do those, but it might not actually give you anything. Like if it doesn't actually give you an additional mana font, then it might not be worth the effort. And simultaneously, not doing a pre-mana font extension is way easier. Thank you, Ardell. I probably want to like check the ad phase again at the end. She remembered something important. She left the oven on! Excuse me? You see this? You see this, yeah? What? How? There's an additional one there. Just in case anyone misunderstood that, it's what we call a tie. See, 3, 6. Let's see. 50 million damage. It is pretty funny how about half the raid lived and the other, like, well, then 3 died anyways. Where's Okay, so the ones that died are here. Wait. There, and there, and Shaq is in between 2 of them. What? What? Exactly, Cole. Some balls of their enraged propagate quite slowly. But wouldn't it propagate from a specific area? How is this? How does that work? Did Shack move in the middle of it, or what's going on here? I don't think so. I was jumping everywhere with Reawaken? Well, I mean, your actual location doesn't change during Reawaken. The Enrage being a giant mess of AoEs might also have been part of the shenanigans. That's true. It could be that each of them died as the first target on 3 different AoEs. It's still funny that Shack can stand like sort of in between 2 dead players. Right, I wanted to check the ad phase again. Nothing surprising there. Oh, nice. More melee combo. Just quickly checking something here. Yeah, if I had the attention span to count the I crave violence attacks on the Gimme Cat, I would much more easily be able to just addle early in Sugar Ride, and if I did that, I would probably be able to addle the second Ready or Not. But there's just too much. Kansas, I hate the Fire Ready. Why do you hate the Fire Ready specifically? Because then you can't use the Flare. When the first Jabber starts moving is when you can mid? Oh, that's even sooner. Hmm. 45. Yeah, 45 is maybe a bit too early. The attack there lands at 27, so it's not quite right when the first Jabber spawns or starts moving. Oh. Okay, I see it now. And blap. But you're optimally finding a specific sign and then just using Addle early would be the move, because the second Ready or Not is like it's like 80 or 85 seconds after the first one, I think. And the Jabber gets stunned. You can also Addle the boss. That's also an idea. But yeah, nice. Ishak says I do the first, but I've got reawaken going, so can't double weave without clipping. Yeah, that not much you can do about that. Right. So I still have clips from Za. Oh, by the way, we're done with looking at Spoilerland. Thank you, Adil. If you weave specifically after Reawaken, then you can, yes. But if you're in the middle of the Reawaken combo, then the next opportunity is after Ouroboros. Exactly, Sally. Just doing the dance exercises. The walk wasn't long enough. Speaking of which, Saf, don't know if you know this specifically. But is it a specific one of the heads in that intermission on M8N that does the stack marker, or what's going on with that? Or is it one from each of them, or what's going on? The yellow one. That would explain why it's the one that gets marked usually. Geltel says it would be great if I could ask mine to be the next. It can. Geltel's triple weaving only barely clips your uncoiled too. Math time. Specifically with Uncoiled Fury, it kinda depends on what your latency is. Civ Analysis says it clips, so I just base it off that. It should depend on your latency and your GCD. Is Uncoiled Fury normal GCD speed? Uncoiled Fury is 3.5. All the other twin blade things are 3 exactly. But then you have, you know, the attack speed buff. Which pushes Uncoiled Fury down to 2.975. I'm just let me put it like this: if your connection is good, then you're this close to be able to triple weave during Vicewinder combos like Hunter's Coil and Swiftskin's Coil. You can't. Mechanically, you can't. Like, genuinely, we looked over this, and even if you had, like, I believe you need a latency of less than 8 ms to be able to triple weave Vicewinder in a duty. Well, triple weave Hunter's Coil or Swiftskin's Coil is where it usually comes up. Less than 8 ms to be capable of doing it without clipping the GCD. Uncoiled Fury should be possible with like 100 ms, I think. Something like that. Like a pretty big jump, right? But that is because it has like nearly half a second extra to work with that you can then split evenly over them. Born to triple combo pod, forced to crit ends up ahead. Oh. ultimately you wouldn't want to triple weave anyway, but specifically if you can queue in an on-coiled Fury and your latency is really, really excellent, it should work. Emphasis on should. Might not. In fact, if you're triple weaving something like that, it's usually in a little bit of a panic situation maybe, so you're probably not doing it perfectly, and if you're not doing it perfectly, then it's not going to work. That's actually, when I've been trying to demonstrate triple weaves, the hardest part about it is actually like the finger movement to perfectly triple weave. Like, because you need to send it exactly on time. Yeah, otherwise it doesn't work. Oh well, it's not, you know, like if it doesn't work, then it could be because you're slow, not because it can't work. Triple weaving with Slither? I could see that. Right, so Yasel, I think it was a little bit of an inspiration from the video about the one button thing that was coming that is coming to WoW. It made a few macros to basically play Black Mage with extremely few buttons. This is going to be extremely cursed. Freezy says people were arguing about triple weaving being possible for 2.5 GCD, so at 2.975 it should definitely be possible. But as always, latency beware. Yeah, the problem is when people say that they like the argument of whether it is possible to triple weave at 2.5. The problem there is that with what we know now, it's basically a big fat no on exactly 2.5. It shouldn't be possible. Because the animation lock, the maximum animation lock allowed to be able to triple weave on a 2.50 GCD is 0.625, exactly, you know, a fourth of 2.5. And by design, the lowest delay you can have is 0.63. Hey Tom, hope you're doing well. Yes. There was a rather big amount of changes to Black Mage. It depends on what you liked about it. They removed the timers on Astral Fire and Umbral Ice. So that one is quote-unquote trivial now. They made the cast times on most of your spells just 2 seconds. There's still the GCD and you can't, you know, single weave without clipping stuff. But let's just say that it's a lot... many would say that Black Mage is a lot easier to play now. It still has complexity in actually understanding how it is played, but it doesn't have nearly as many of the huge shenanigans that they needed to do to optimize. And the thing I've learned recently, Perrin, that has been tested recently, is that the animation lock is pretty much a strict 0.6, and your latency, and then plus your latency, plus somewhere between 0.3, or sorry, not 0.3, somewhere between 30 and 60 ms. And it's 30 to 40 when you're in a duty, it's 40 to 60 when you're in open worlds. And that is something you can actually test and demonstrate. It's almost exactly to the exact count. If you know what your latency is and it's consistent, you can actually see this. You can straight up see that incidentally, if you try to triple weave, it works almost a little bit better in duties. It still doesn't work, but it almost works. Whereas in open world, it absolutely doesn't work. Like it's a little worse. I guess there are specific cases where the animation log is slightly shorter, but from what I could see, it's pretty consistently 0.6. Plus those additional details. But I have also noticed if you're lagging, like if your latency is higher, that it feels like sometimes the game will let you cheat a little bit. Like when I was testing it over on OCE earlier, it felt like I could double weave after Hunter's Coil or Swiftskin's Coil, where the second weave was faster than normal. Like as if the game was like, oh yeah, you are actually behind in schedule, we'll let you have this one. So like, the game is weird. But based on what I can see and what others have tested, shouldn't be possible to triple weave. Even with the perfect connection on a normal GZD. Anyway, but animation logs feel almost non-existent. I think part of the reason is because their actual animations look pretty natural. I don't know what to tell you, Cole. Yeah, exactly. Okay, you said it yourself. I was gonna say, I don't know why that job feels like you can always triple weave. Parentheses, you can't. But it feels like it. I think it's because most of Bart's animations are really, really fast. So it looks like you're done and ready to do something else very quickly. Or alternatively, it also feels like... It feels like, because some of the animations are weirdly long, it feels like it doesn't matter that your current animation is still ongoing. You can weave anyway, so it gets this feeling like you can triple weave, because just because I'm in the middle of something doesn't mean that I couldn't. Also, but what is happening with that forward button? And as you can look at logs for people with good paying, Explosion, the Black Mage is an example, and view the time deltas of double weaves, and occasionally you'll get a positive correction to 0.57 versus 0.62. Fair point. And that would explain this observation that I had, that it felt like sometimes it would let you use an extra one. But it is still worth pointing out that under most circumstances, it still means that it's basically not possible to triple weave without clipping. Even if it, like, you know, gives you a little bit of leeway, which means that you can often double weave a little bit faster than you thought you could. The following weave will always have a quote-unquote negative correction, so 0.62 to 0.67. Well, the weird thing is, in your example, Perrin, if it actually was 0.62, so 0.57, then 0.62, and then a negative correction to 0.67, if that was the case, what would be the fourth one? Because I'm guessing if 0.57 is the spell itself, and then 0.62 would be the first weave, and then 0.67 would be the second weave. What would happen with the next one? Would that one then be 0.62? Because if it's not 0.62, then, like, if it's more than that, then I can see how it doesn't work. But if it's specifically, in your example, 0.62, that is actually exactly enough that you would be able to triple weave if your GCD was, you know, exactly 2.5, which it is unlikely to be as a Black Mage. Considering how many Black Mage weapons have spell speed on it. The Smart player seems pretty mid. I'm sure you're doing fine, Nox. Yeah, the big problem with this kind of like single button setup like this, why it doesn't quite work, is exactly that it doesn't have the it doesn't have the capacity to adjust based on what cooldowns you have, and that's just the way it is. They go generally out to thousands greater than 0.625. Right. Yeah, I'm just saying, Perrin, basically, I'm just pause real quick. Basically, what I could find by looking through people that like looked deeper into like testing things on this specifically, is that they found that the animation log is basically 0.6 sharp plus your latency plus a specific delay, basically like some sort of like delay while they're handling what you're saying you're doing, which at its fastest is 30 ms. But it varies from 30 to 40 ms in duties. But it varies from 40 to 60 when you're not in duties. Which makes sense if we assume that duties have like, well, heavier duty servers to handle and like to try and give a slightly better performance, which is weird if you think about it, but I guess it makes sense. I can see that, and I can observe that in the actual game. Like, you can actually go and test this if you try to do something like triple weaving at a striking dummy at your house. You'll find that it works worse than if you try to do the exact same thing in a duty, and you don't have to like go and like bother a group with this. You just open Explorer mode and go into a duty that way and summon a striking dummy and test it, and you will observe that it quote unquote works a little better. You still can't do it because of the problem that even if it's 0.6 plus 30 ms, that's 5 ms too much. And that's why it doesn't work. I totally believe that there is this thing with like sometimes you like the thing will go in like half a second sooner or later and things like that, especially if other times it'll basically like it'll claw that saved time back immediately after. That sorta makes sense as well. But genuinely, it does appear that they like it's basically like almost by design they've made the delay perfectly such that you cannot triple weave without it clipping a GCD. Strangely. Even if you sat in the server room, it should still have those 30 ms added on top. Even if your latency was actually 0, it should still add those 30 on top. And I could at least observe so perfectly that if when I went over to OCE, I noticed that I could basically just barely, like my latency's a little bit, a little swingy on OCE, to the point that with this observation, I can sometimes single weave in my monk set without clipping the GCD. Sometimes. Like it'll swing just below and just above based on this knowledge with the 30 ms thing. Yeah, exactly, Perrin. Oh, well, I suppose to the negative latency. Exactly. But, because of that, it is interesting because it changes the perception from, well, if your connection was just perfect, you could triple wave, to, well, actually, you pretty much need the server to goof it up, and then you also need the stars to align, and it has to be specifically a Tuesday on a full moon, and then you can triple weave. Under normal circumstances. Jose, Mr. Bright, and Bored Erica. Hope you're doing well. And also to you, Perrin. I hope you're doing well as well. Possibly, Perrin. Part of the reason why I believe so confidently in it is also because I tested it, and someone that I trust tested it and logged it and showed their work and basically demonstrated down to the millisecond exactly what I just explained. Down to the millisecond. Like, perfectly. First try. Like, it wasn't any like, it's a little janky, it's true sometimes. It was straight up, tried once, there it is. If it was a little like, then I probably wouldn't stand like so solidly on, yes, that is how it works. Hey, Seraph, hope you're doing well. And I know, Nox, the problem is that it's really hard to see what a bard is doing from the perspective of someone else. I would have said, well, I can't read what you're doing because it's in Japanese, but what would I read? You don't have any casts. The best I could do is see if you're using your buffs smartly. Right now you don't have a song running, do you? Oh, you do. I think you just used it. Right now you don't have a song running. Now you have a song running. That's one of the hardest things with Bard, because, like, you had a song running here. I'm not sure. Like, if we just take that one really quick, it's like a really complicated part of optimizing Bard. Yeah, right here you have Mage's Ballad running. Why, by the way? And here you activate Wanderer's Minuet. 10, 20, 30. Yeah, that's awkward. It's way too early to switch song again. But you would really like to switch song now, so that you don't have to run some portion of the way with no song. You really would want to switch song now. The reason why I said why is because you should be using Wondrous Minuet, then Mage's Ballad, and then Army's Paean. And the reason for that is because Army's Paean gives some of its speed bonus to the next song over. And because you want Wondrous Minuet to be paired with your damage buffs, Army's Paean is technically one of those damage buffs. So you would want to go Wondrous Minuet, and then Mage's Ballad, and then Army's Paean. Nox says, if I remember correctly, I misaligned my songs. That could be. And of course, it's better to play a song than not a song. Yeah, does the Viper triple combo pod had a planned double weave? I absolutely could tell the difference between Dummy and Rubicante. Thank you! And yeah, exactly. My best advice, like just based on this conversation, just to like wrap up on that, you know, you can practice your rotation on a striking dummy literally anywhere. But if you want to get the most effective practice, if you're doing something that is really tight on weaves and such, it's probably better to practice it in Explorer mode in a duty. Like straight up just instead of going to your striking dummy anywhere at your house or whatever, you just do like this, and then you just, I don't know, choose your favorite scenery, go in there, put down a striking dummy, and then just go to town, because it'll be closer to the true experience you're going to get in a duty. It's basically non-existent difference, but if it's really tight what you're doing, then something that doesn't work at your house does work in the duty for some reason. You know, Cole, I regularly use Explorer mode for my thumbnails. That's also, by the way, Cole, in Explorer mode, you have free access to all limit breaks. So if you ever needed to test something within regards to limit breaks, there you go. You can test how much damage they do. Can it change jobs? Yes, you can. You can change job in the middle of Explorer mode. You just have to not be in combat. For some reason, you cannot leave Explorer mode while you're in combat, which is weird, because you can leave duties while in combat in unsynced. And that's correct, Coppersol Fate. That's also how I test limit break things in my Mythbuster videos. That's also how you can test so precisely, for instance, the knowledge that limit breaks scale with the average item level of your party's weapons. And yeah, also true, Cat, most streams I have to turn off most raid streams I have to turn off Explorer mode before we go in, because I was taking a picture for something. It's a very good place for testing. Oh, thank you, Ardell, that is a good point. I did a video where I did show off Explorer mode. Also, hey Alex, hope you're doing well. And yeah, for some reason, Explorer mode only works in dungeons. Only dungeons. I usually do it pretty fast, Agent Monica. Sometimes I'll also be turning off sync and unrestricted. If you truly want to suffer, you can check how often I drop my dots. See, that's the thing, Nox, is that I could give a lot of advice. It's a little hard when you're not the one in control, because I can't really see what you're doing and what you're not doing. Like, I would have to, like, look through the entire fight and pay attention to what you, like, what buffs you get and such, to be able to, like, deconstruct what you did. Yeah, I see your dots dropped there. But, like, overall, most of the things are probably reasonably obvious. Like, for instance, if your dots drop, I don't need to tell you that you shouldn't do that. Yeah, one thing's for certain, Gazel. What I'm seeing here is that you're having a lot of trouble with this. Like, specifically making this contraption function. There's also the additional problem that because you use the macro both to do the action and to flip the buttons, if you click it too early, then like it'll move on and you can't easily get it back. So you have to wait to be sure that it goes on in time. It is definitely like a like meme test thing, which is funny. But I do have to say, like, I'm just saying, if I was the developer making like a one-button solution for Black Mage, I don't think I would put transpose flare in it. If I'll be perfectly honest, I don't think I would like. I don't think I would put. Like I think transpose would just casually leave the lineup once you got Fire 3 and Blizzard 3, and then it would only appear if you were not in combat, or maybe if you didn't have a target and you were in Astral Fire, then it would be like switch to transpose. You click that, and then it switches to Umbral Soul. But other than that, I don't think... Like, that was actually something I was thinking about yesterday. Consider, for a moment... Imagine, just as a thought, if the devs actually intended for this kind of mega jank to be the intended rotation of Black Mage. How would you design that? Like, if they actually meant for you to do this, that's absolutely ridiculous. It makes a lot better sense that they put simpler buttons and then just made the jank just janky enough that it works. And then the players go, wait a minute. Like, you know what I mean? Oh boy. Oh boy. Go give the kid the dragon kick rotation. I am just saying, back in Endwalker with this super jank that was the dragon kick rotation, in the weirdest way, I sometimes felt that that was harder to perform than the proper monk rotation. Behind the healer and DPS, let's go. In fairness, white mages have a weirdly heavy opener burst, so maybe you'll catch up. You doubt it? Oh, well, your dots are running out soon. You remembered those. Amplifier's available. The healer's much better gear judging by HP. Yeah, that would make a huge difference. It's either way better gear or they have a food buff and Nox does not. But that would definitely also make an impact. I remember the other day when we were doing dailies. I was there as Black Mage, of course. And I think it was when we were doing normal raid reclears, just for the fun of it. And Freezy was playing Pictomancer. And I was noticing that I had a hard time staying on top of Enmity. which I usually don't in most groups as Black Mage. I'm pretty good at it. But not only were there periods where Freezy would catch up and get ahead of me, but that was pretty embarrassing considering that I had Devilment and the standard finish buff. So I was like, I was just barely ahead, despite having every single advantage I could possibly have. And then I examined Freezy Lemon and saw that they had a weapon with 15 item levels above mine. I was like, there it is. that would make that possible for me. That might make the difference. Hey Caetsu, hope you're doing well. And yeah, exactly. I believe the points where you usually went ahead was because of your bursts. But it was still really funny. I was like, wait, how is that possible? Like, it was not like I was like, no one can possibly beat me. I'm like, not only am I would say pretty good at Black Mage, I was doing my best, but I had a dancer basically, like I had Aradel, just like holding me like in the Lion King, just to get me even higher, and I couldn't hold the lead. I'm like, that's awkward. Mr. Bright says, what melee DPS has a similar feel to Dark Knight, so I wouldn't need to change my muscle memory too much? I don't think there is one that quite has that feel. The fact that Copper Sulfate is saying Ninja or Dragoon, Zav is saying Reaper, and Gaza is saying Samurai probably tells you that the answer is none of them. Ilana says Viper. Oh look, dog. Woof. That's a lot of macros. Yeah, it's hard to say, Mr. Bright. It kind of depends on what thing you're latching onto for Dark Knight. That's a ludicrous amount of macros for this. How do you intend to store this, Gassel? Do you just like save them in a notepad or something? Because it's almost a shame to get rid of them. But if you want to do things, you may have to like get rid of them to do other things. I basically cleaned out most of my macros somewhat recently. As some of you may have seen in some of my videos, I used to have like all the way down to here with random stuff. AZ, hope you're doing well. And also hey Falca, hope you're doing well as well. But that was interesting, Castle. I'm doing well as well, Z. Thank you. Right. Is Zav and Shaq still here? They are both here. How about we start? I know Zav has a very short clip. We can start with that one. And then we take Shax and then we finish up with Zav that has a clear video. So as I understand from this one, this is basically what happens every time there's a tank buster on P6S minimum item level no echo. Looks like it's in the middle of a 2-minute burst. Oh, the Dark Knight is about to die. Everyone is about to die. Looks like the Dark Knight didn't need their invuln after all. You know, I remember when I did this on... Well, not this, but the P6N, I believe, has the weird thing where she puts snakes on everyone. Happens to resolve during the 2-minute bursts. It's incredibly obnoxious. Asked Panic is quite the appropriate title, yeah. Just press every button. And then we have Shaq playing White Mage in Ghost Park. Whoops. Jesus, that reminds me, I had the most cursed group in Gubal Library the other day. Ice only Black Mage. Healer standing still and waiting for people to take damage. And Tomahawk only Warrior. What? What? No, I believe you, Z, because like the thing is, I have in some of my videos where like sometimes I bring up like subjects about like people really not bringing it, and sometimes there's, you know, like comments that are basically to the point of that never happens. Like, why are you making up these fake scenarios? These people don't exist. And I'm like, yes, they do. They do. Like, any possible scenario, any player you could possibly conjure up in your mind exists in some form or another. Somehow. Like, you say a warrior that only used Tomahawk. Like, I have told the story of, I believe it was a Dark Knight, only doing 1, 2, 3s in Bottom's Metal. And when quizzed on why are you doing that, they had none of your nonsense because they had already leveled all the other tanks and they knew what they were doing, and that had never been a problem before. Like, that's somehow not as bad as Tomahawk only in some respects. I'm experienced is such a common... Exactly. Leveling jobs does not mean you're experienced. Well, Mr. Bright, the only way to like build new muscle memory is to start from scratch, in a way. The classic healer that dances when they have nothing else to do, quote unquote, is very, very annoying sometimes. It's like, just shoot an attack. It doesn't hurt. But the ones that are actually dancing are probably more likely to take offense to you suggesting they should. Partly because if you're right and they should be attacking, could you imagine how much time they've wasted and how many people they've offended? It's easier for them to accept that you're being ridiculous. I've played since 1.0 doesn't mean that player's good. Actually, Ceres, not only that, but the longer you've played Final Fantasy XIV, the more likely it is that that something you believe is something that I've covered in a Mythbuster video as false. Because the longer you've been around, the more likely you remember something incorrectly. Or you didn't realize that something changed and you just perpetuate this falsehood and things like that. And yeah, exactly. If they made that mistake since 1.0, then they have played this game for a decade and they suck at it. Right? Hypothetically. Gothics has never had been a problem before as a common excuse I remember well. That one is also pretty funny because I could imagine that the reason why that person didn't have that it wasn't a problem before is because most players saw a, like, I don't know, level 80 plus tank just doing 1, 2, 3s. They just put their hands, like, put their head in their hands, just like, and hope that things will turn out all right. Sorry. Because there's no saving that. Like, I say that in my mentor videos. If I see someone making a glaring mistake, ding ding, at level 90, there's a very good chance I'll just be like, they won't hear me out anyway. There's no point. And even if there was, where do I start? I'm imagining that it has been a while since you've played White Mage at high level. Because as someone else also mentioned, a couple Sulfate. Oh, you did remember Glare 4. I would say something you could do, just in regards to specifically a pull like this. I've kinda touched on this in Mythbusters. Is that you use Presence of Mind. That makes your holy casts fast enough that it might be possible that you could go holy, Glare 4, holy, and still catch the next stun on the before it runs out. And you just alternate a bit. You might want to go like holy, Glare 4, holy, 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 like to get the stuns chained together. But yeah, you can, like, the important part is not forgetting the Glare 4s, which you remembered eventually. That's good enough. Hey Volvian, hope you're doing well. Yeah, see, at this point I'm reviewing clips sent to me on the in the Discord for me to check and for you to enjoy as well. I don't just review random people's clips. I prefer that I've gotten permission. And that's also a good point, Couples of Fate. Depending on what tank you have, just letting the Glare 4s rip immediately might also be a good idea, because the tank might be healing automatically through their opener. It's not super easy, because it's like it's something, it's like advice I give for healing is like, pay attention to what your tank is doing, but you know, if you're learning the job, then you're focused on yourself. So, you know, one step at a time. And if you don't play specifically White Mage super much, then, like, you would be focused on what you do there. Here we have, like, a hindsight example, is that because you hit 3 lilies, I can say in hindsight, you should have used an Afflatus spell here while you were running anyway. Very easy for me to know in hindsight. Given that I know Rust is a pretty reliable tank, if I was the White Mage in that scenario, I would have probably just done that. And then I would just, you know, take the L if I guessed wrong. But yeah, like, the thing is, there's not that much to say on the defensive play in those pulls, because you didn't even need to use Tetragrammaton. You used Asylum on the first pull, which is good. Bad idea is just let that one sit. But you weren't pressed at all. Which is good. As ice. No one got hatted. Also, hey, Red Master. Hope you're doing well. Rusted? Oh, whoops. I was sure that I saw no hatting. Oh, yeah, that would be why. It doesn't look like it hit. But it did. But yeah, exactly, Red Master. That's, like, if someone does something completely, like, unbelievably bad in a duty, and they justify that it's okay because no one has complained before, the much more likely, like, if you ever find yourself in a situation where you're doing something that someone is saying is completely incorrect, there's a possibility that they are the idiot in that exchange, and they actually have no idea what they're talking about. Uh-oh, there's a grabby. And another hat. But unless they, like, if they happen to be correct, then it is likely that the thing you're doing wrong is, is so bad that most other people saw it and concluded there was nothing they could do. Aziz says, you got time for 15-second clip after these? Just a little funny. I grab the clips that we do before the stream starts most of the time. There's very few exceptions. Partly because I usually, read what the person is saying the clip is about. And, make sure that I have it ready to go. And I do it like that because the one time where I just grabbed a clip that was sent to me during the stream, I missed everything the person said about the clip. And it kind of just fell flat and made no sense. And I want to make sure that I give the clips that are sent the time they deserve. Like, someone spent time like putting it together and sending it and all that. So I'm gonna give it a chance to actually breathe. Bro, Erica says, I guess if they say not a problem in the past, but now it is, will they improve now it is? That's a good question. That depends on how they react. Like, that's what I'm saying is, if you respond to someone saying you're doing this wrong, and then you say, well, it hasn't been a problem in the past, it might be a good time to review whether it's a problem that has just gone unnoticed. And then it's up to you to decide whether you should do something about it. So what I would recommend here, when you get grabbed, like, usually when I get grabbed, is I just slam a defensive cooldown because, boom, took some damage. The children are not going to touch you while you have a hat. They think you're one of them, especially if you're Lalafell. But you are pretty helpless in case something hits you while this is happening. And something might hit you. So just, like, planting a defensive cooldown on yourself, just in case, is a pretty good call. Like, for instance, if you get hatted just as the chase AoEs happen and you happen to be one of the targets, then you're probably dead. Like, you might straight up be dead. Especially if you're the healer. And yeah, you got grabbed again after you tried to save the Viper. Yeah. You see, the thing is, in my experience with that boss, if you get hatted, or if I get hatted at least, the probability that I get hatted again skyrockets. Like, just whoom, suddenly the probability that I get hatted twice, the chance of me getting hatted once is one chance, but the chance of me getting hatted twice is eerily close to the same probability that I get hatted once. Because then you get confused, and then, like, you're completely confused on your position, and then you get hatted again. But yeah, the way it for Z and anyone else who's new to these streams is that about every other week we do one of these streams, and we go for a walk to somewhere in game that is a reasonable opportunity to talk about something or multiple things. And when we reach our destination, usually we review some clips that you sent. And sometimes it's a funny thing that happened, sometimes it's just, look what I managed to do. And sometimes it's, I would like some advice. Like, how can I do this better? Hey Rust, hope you're doing well. And exactly, Ardell, we do it on Ravana Materia, so if you want to participate in the walk, you can. You just have to come over and participate in the walk. But yeah, overall, I don't think there's that much to say on attack rotation, Shaq. And some, like, I would say I can see that you're already doing it. Like, here, you're just tossing a lily. Because the bar's almost giving you another one, you could easily get away with tossing the other one too, if you like. Like, you're gonna have another one before anyone needs healing. So you could safely toss both. In fact, with a group like this, you're probably okay to toss all of them before combat starts. It's perfectly fine and like a safety precaution to hold one. It's just like a tip that maybe you might want to do that. The fact you're using Divine Benison at all is also pretty good. But I don't think there's that much I can say. Like, the first boss is like, if you're less, like, if you're not super well acquainted with the job you're playing, you're probably going to, you know, get grabbed because you get distracted from that while you're doing your rotation. That doesn't mean you're bad at your job. It might mean you're less experienced with the fight in particular. But as far as I can see, like, you're playing White Mage just fine. There's also the part that your group doesn't have any raid buffs. So, genuinely, like, look here, you're using Glare Fall a little, like, a few GSVs into Presence of Mind. But you used it for repositioning, like, genuinely, because you are, because there's no raid buffs. As long as you get all 3 Glare Falls out the door, it doesn't actually matter when you use them. As long as you use them within the 30 seconds. The Assayas needs to go out, though. Hey, Pio. Hope you're doing well. What is your worst or least favorite job to play? I would say it's probably Ninja. Probably Ninja. I find it alright in solo boss fights, but in dungeons, I don't really like it. So, like, it places it at neutral or less for me. Any inputs for Paladin in this fight? I still struggle with that dungeon. I don't know. For the first boss, the particular thing to remember, regardless of what job you're... Oh, look, Venture finished. Is that the first hats. Remember the first hats, because that's always what gets you. Like, the boss isn't really doing anything, and then it summons hats, and then you're like, oh, it's happening, and then you get hatted. That's usually how I get hatted too, because I forget the first one. You get stunned on the second. Wait, what? Stuns on the teacups? What? And also to what Z and Sarah said, I've also said this, that it's extremely obnoxious that when you die in Final Fantasy XIV, when you get rest, for some reason, they think it's a good idea to just put like a blindfold over you for like 5 seconds. and then go, guess where you are now. Like, if they made it so that it, like, I understand that it's probably to, like, make it look nicer when they basically, like, they teleport your corpse out of the way and then, like, you appear somewhere else. They make it fade in, so it's not just, like, and then you're there. But I would much prefer if they just went, and then you're there, like, slowly raising. I don't want me, I'm not saying raise me faster, I'm just saying don't put a blindfold on me. A funny thing, actually, not super helpful, but a fun fact, I think it was Gazel that helped with us testing this. But there's something really janky about these guys. When they start drumming, like they're at a nightclub or something, those AoEs have a maximal vertical range, and you can, as a range job, run a certain amount up the stairs on the staircase behind you and not take any damage from them. The reason why it hardly matters is because, first of all, you have to move them over to the staircase. Like, just for starters, to even have an opportunity to try and use it, you have to move them over to the staircase. Second of all, among all the jobs in Final Fantasy XIV, the only ones that can actually, like, reasonably effectively AoE from that distance is, like, Astrologian, Black Mage, Pictomancer, partly Summoner, partly Red Mage, and that's pretty much it. And yeah, Lilybell is very effective against those stomps. Also, fun fact, I learned just recently that the reason why people nicknamed it Lilybell is because when the action was revealed, it was supposedly called Lilybell in the demonstration footage. And then it became Liturgy of the Bell when it fully released. Oh yeah, also another tip about this boss, in addition to what Z said, is that the wave of that thing with the tethers, where half the room gets AoE'd, remember that the ghost platform you stand near will be the one where your ghost spawns. So once you can see which half of the room is getting cleaved, move over to that side so that your ghost spawns there and then run over to the other side. Also, I agree, it would be hilarious if they made it so that your corpse just goes over to where they get rest. That would be great. Like that would be amazingly funny. Maybe we should stay as ghosts and come back to our bodies like in Alamigo? Oh yeah, that could also work. An additional tip to make this particular baiting trick a little easier to perform is that while you're in ghost mode, this can't hurt you. Like these books and blocks and stuff don't do damage to ghosts. So you can straight up just stand in the middle and just lean slightly to the right or left when you need to bait. So that is very, very optimal amounts of tether movement. The main reason why I necessarily don't do that, Z, is mainly because if you're playing a mage, then you might not, like, you maybe turn back to Ghost when it's convenient to move over and become Ghost. Gotta get that melee uptime. Yeah, that's exactly the reason why you wouldn't want to be forced to the back line with your tether. And even like this is like giga extreme optimization, but technically being out of melee range during your fight or flight costs you 37.5 potency per second because of your auto attacks. It's really not much, but it adds up. Bedmaster says, I'm curious, for everyone in all Final Fantasy and other Square RPGs like them, what is your favorite job, even if it's not the most powerful? My favorite job, like, design-wise, tends to be something along the lines of Red Mage. In the cases where I've seen, like, I also really like the concept of, like, for instance, Tactics Advanced Fencer. The concept of it, like a melee that applies various debuffs with their attacks, which might also have some sort of focus on, you know, like dodging, parrying, and countering. Like, they're basically, instead of just like dunking on the opponent with a big weapon, they like gradually wear them down while just staying alive. Like, they're just messing around, right? While like gradually wearing you out. And then, of course, I also really like Warlocks, which is like the weirdly effective combination of pet management and dot management. Like, basically the management guy. It's Steve from management. And right, now we finally have Zav's Barbie. Do we still have Zav, or did we lose him? Did we lose a Zav? We have a Zav, and it's a ninja in minimizing level no echo, Barbie. Is it also blind, Zav? Or is it just minimizing with no echo? Not blind, okay.
Sacrilege. Exquisite ether. My head shimmers with anticipation.
Yo, should I do? Strange design on this new Barbie toy. Well, they decided to put her in an interesting outfit, certainly. And we have farmed this fight unsynced on stream. There's a lot of mechanics where we actually see them done right this time. Whereas when we did it, there were a lot of mechanics that just went, I mean... It doesn't kill you. We have the stacks here that does... Yeah, that's gonna be a problem if a single person is late.
My looks are as the wind.
And that's true. Trick attack is a positional at level 90. That is true. At least, I can't remember off the top of my head when they changed it, but there was a time
Long and free.
where trick... Uh-oh, we have a healer dead. Where trick attack giving its effects hinged on it landing the positional. And that was when it still gave the... where it was a raid buff, technically.
You've done well to last this long. But the battle has only just begun.
So just imagine that. You just lose a raid buff because you were slightly off on the positional.
I'll slaughter you all. Dodge this if you can. I'll make it quick.
Oh no! The frontal trick attack. That was scary. Why didn't it let you use your rights on it? It looked like it said it was no target or something. Just checking. Oh. Right, I was just about to say that. Do you not have auto turn?
Feel my fury. Know your place.
They says, I have a question. If during M5S my tank says, alright, tank stance, shortly before DPS gets a tank buster, how likely are you to crash out? Me? I think what we've done when that happened was we just wipe and go again. But we're in a static. So we're just like, oh, well, we go again. So, like, when you say crash out, I assume you mean, like, going absolutely ballistics over something like that? Is that what you mean? Well, that is an interesting configuration. Uh-oh. Oh. When your partner dies. Oh. And someone in the party chat there says, one of the healers said it might be a wipe. That is concerning when the boss is at 50%. So here.
A fair wind blows.
PlayStation! PlayStation! Couples Old Fate says you can hold Phantom Kamaitachi, no reason to send it. That's true. In fact, I have heard some cases where people specifically hold it, like if it's close to, like if they can have it in the burst. But I actually, now that I think about it, is it actually optimal to hold Phantom Kamaitachi to put it in the burst? If that was the case? Like, if some drifting happens to make it optimal, or happen to land in it. Best used right after the Komori? Okay. Yeah, I don't know, Z. I'm probably not the best person to ask because I'm the raid leader. Like, technically, I'm the raid leader. So if I had a problem with one of my tanks doing that, you know, I would probably do something. Like, I would probably be the one that had to deal with that socially. Whoa, boy. We just think Milo's causing chaos again. Yeah, pretty much. And the worst thing that could happen is, okay, we pull again. Yeah, I'm actually... what part of it was the initiation? I would actually say, Z, if you've done a lot of pulls in a night, it's a lot more likely that someone will suddenly forget something really silly. Like, they'll make a really, really goofy mistake. Oh, right. Phantom Kamaitachi you can hold for a really long time. What do you mean, Red Master? I mean, genuinely, like, it's a lot more likely, just in my raid team, for instance, like, if we're doing re-clears and the boss just, like, it's taking more pulls than usual to get the boss down, the more pulls we do, the more likely someone is going to do, like, a really silly mistake. Because you just get loopy at some point. Oh, the sleep-only Black Mage. That would surprise me, but hey, as I said, if you can imagine it, it probably exists in that specific regard. Like, it's the same thing that sometimes we remind our Scholar to summon their pet. We've had insta wipes on M6 because a single cooldown was forgotten at the very start. But it's more likely to happen on pull 15 than pull 3. Hey God Walls, hope you're doing well. And yeah, exactly.
A fair wind blows.
And yeah, precisely, Freezy. It's a lot more obvious with certain things. We talked about this a few times just on the last stream, that part of the reason why people get so caught up on single target Doton is because it's so obvious. But a ninja could be making 100 mistakes in a duty and put down single target Doton like 2 or 3 times among those 100 mistakes. And the only mistake you might notice is actually the single target Doton, because it's so obvious. That pull was quite a journey. About halfway through the fight, it looked like you were afraid that it was not going to work. Like it looked like a wipe, and then you recovered. And there were a point where, like, you died because of your partner dying. Like, it suddenly, like, just went off the rails. It is quite a journey with ups and downs. Well done, Zav and the team. Doink. I remember, so I mentioned earlier in this stream actually that back in Endwalker, the second raid tier, so Protocarby, I did a few streams of Party Finder Savage raiding. I never did beat Protocarby. I only did a few streams and they were not super long. But I also ended up spending a lot of time in Party Finder. Because that's just the way it is sometimes. But the day before I did my first stream of that, I hopped into a Barbie, like, prog group. And after that first Protocarby stream, my experience was, mechanically, I felt that Barbie was the harder fight of the two. But in terms of, like, how heavily punished you were for making a mistake, Savage tends to win on that. Like, I'm just saying, if they had swapped Barbie and Protocarby, and, like, so Barbie was a Savage fight, and so the damage numbers were as such, I would imagine that it would have been the harder Savage fight of the two. Redmaster says, I just thought of a stupid idea using Sticky Tongue Blue Mage to play mob golf. There's a lot of funny things you can do with Blue Mage. A few particular ones include Malediction of Water, which pushes party members. And where's the other one? A Right Round, which pushes party members. Which means which means that you could actually play some really wacky Blue Mage sumo wrestling. I don't know where you would do it, but you could. But yeah, in regards to some of the classical mistakes that you're like, for instance, oops, you can get into a duty without your job stone. Like that one is one of the worst ones. Or the single target Doton, or forgetting your dance partner, or forgetting to Cardia. A lot of them. The thing is, for a lot of players, if you just remind them, you don't have to do any more. You don't have to say anything else. If they know they goofed, that's not the case with single target Doton, because usually it's something they deliberately did, so they would be a lot more confused initially. But with the things where they forgot tank stance, they forgot dance partner, they forgot Cardia, you just say, remember this, and depending on how late you mention it, you might not need to say a thing, because they are already very embarrassed. You don't have to give them a hard time over it. They are good. They're covering that on their own. Z says, has anyone ever accidentally forgotten their jobstone? Absolutely. I haven't, but I have seen a lot that did here and there. Part of the reason why that can happen, Z, is because not if you change gears, if you change gear like this, right? Like you just have gear sets you switch between, then it's insanely unlikely. But if, for example, you actually switch gear sets like This... You see the problem? It's incredibly unlikely because those hotbars should be a huge red flag. But you might not notice until it's too late. And just a quick heads up, if you ever land in a duty with someone who like ended up doing it as a class, you mention it to them. Just consider that. Just remember that they're not staying the class to annoy you. They genuinely cannot resolve it for the duty because they queued as the class and the game does not allow you to change job or class in the middle of a duty. So they don't allow you to put on the job stone. So you're just stuck like that. I'm just saying, from my end, if I found myself as a class in a duty, unless it's like a low-level duty where it genuinely doesn't matter, unless it's that, I would probably just go, that's my bad, I'll leave. Like, I'll just leave. No big deal. Also, hey, GL and Cyanide. Hope you're doing well. Mr. Bright says I got Alpha unlocked. It isn't a bad dungeon, but I've done the Heavensward Relic quest, so unfortunately I have it optimized. Oh, I could imagine. But I have specifically seen people forget their jobstone. I would say it's a rare one, actually. And it's probably rare enough that the amount of players that forget their jobstone are probably very close to the amount of players that deliberately don't put on their jobstone. For reasons. Sometimes it's... Oh, I'm just trolling. It wouldn't say that, but it is. Sometimes it's, oh, I'm doing a challenge of some sort. Just saying, and we've been over this a little bit on this channel before. If your challenge is, I'm weaker in any interpretable way of that sentence, in a party game, in a game with other players, and you are in groups with other players, then it's not harder for you. It's harder for everyone else. It's not, you're basically just imposing your challenge on them. And just keep that in mind. That's also the reason why when I did challenges back in late Endwalker, we did some streams of that. I did a few challenges where, for instance, there were a few duties where I played like this. So one hand on the keyboard, the camera's mirrored. So one hand on the keyboard, and just played like that. Just, you know, went through the dungeon with just one hand. And there was also duties that I played like this. By the way, I have an MMO mouse, but I didn't use the thumb grid. So I just you know, clicked everything, moved like this. And other times there was also, I did a challenge like this. I just played like this. No UI. And also a few times I played like this. It's really hard, by the way. Did you know, unless you've changed that setting, I believe, it always snaps you back to looking forward. So if you're trying to like AoE while running away, good luck with that. But when we specifically advanced to a challenge that specifically hindered my actual options. Because the thing is, me playing like this is a challenge for me. As long as I'm capable of still playing well. right? If I'm actually not good enough to play reasonably well like this, it automatically becomes a challenge for my party because they have to deal with this wheelchair. Nothing bad about people in wheelchairs. You're awesome. But like basically, I'm just dragging the party down at that point. So it's important with those challenges that the challenge is something that I can do without massively reducing my capacity to play the game. So when we started doing challenges where we actually limited capacity, which was called like the 5-button challenge, for instance, then it was a challenge imposed on the whole party. Meaning, I could have 5 buttons, but all of my party members also could only use 5 buttons. And it was like something that we would sort of keep track of in the way that we would be like, okay, so what's your 5 buttons? What's your 5 buttons? Your 5 buttons? And then like if we saw someone press a button they didn't have, it didn't really happen. But if it happened, it would be like, ooh, cheating. Don't do that. And just for those curious how that worked, is that macros were illegal because you could use a macro to put several things into one button. Very few exceptions being that I can't police whether you did use a macro to do the thing, but you can't use a macro to have access to a bunch of things. You tell me what action is on the button, and that's it. Sprint is a button. Tank stance is a button, summon Kabi or summon Eos is a button, and you're not allowed to use something you didn't pick. So you can't, as a tank, just click tank stance Q in and be like, oh, that's convenient, I didn't sync down, so I still have my tank stance on. Nope, if you didn't pick it, you can't use it. So you have to turn it off again. Indeed, some jobs were way better at it than others. These days, Viper would be incredibly overpowered at the 5-button challenge because they actually have a functional rotation with like 3 buttons. You just take your filler combo and death rattle, boom. But turning it off also needs a button. Well, the thing is, you get told to turn it off before we pull. Let's just say that there was at least one time where the chosen buttons for someone were so bad that we had to impose a ruling that if the group wiped, it was allowed to review what buttons you had chosen and change them. But you had to announce what you changed and that you changed. Because it had to be like, you know, it had to be a quote-unquote punishment that you didn't manage to do it with your first set, because otherwise you would be able to, you know, do the AoE with one build, then just wipe to the boss, and then change to the boss build, and then wipe to the trash, and then switch to the AoE build back and forth. Not super fair or interesting. Freezy says there are probably some jobs that are borderline unplayable with just 5 buttons. We saw some really funny ones. One of the funniest ones, I think, was... so you take Samurai, you pick Mage Shisui, Gecko, Kasha, Yukikaze, and the Aijutsu. What do you do while Mage Shisui is on cooldown? I don't know. Good luck with that. Thank you, Aerodel. Yeah, all you need. But yeah, definitely, there were some jobs that barely worked with 5 buttons. I don't believe we ever went down to 4. But I think we started with 6, then went down to 5, and then we tried 7. Something like that. I can't quite remember the order. But I'm pretty sure we quickly discovered that it's not that interesting at 4, because nearly all jobs are like, that doesn't work. 5-button red mage would be pretty eh. Well, 5-button red mage, you pick, the way I would do it, just to give an example, is I would take Jolt, the Thunder, the Arrow, Moulinet, And at that point, I might actually, nowadays, I might choose acceleration if it's a max level duty, because Grand Impact is pretty funny. But I might also just straight up pick something like Contra 6 at that point. Like, Red Mage is one of the better ones at this. And if you're in a raid situation, you'd probably pick the Raise as your 5th button. Black Mage is also one of those that kinda work on 4 buttons. Blizzard 3, Blizzard 4, Fire 3, Fire 4. I'll say Dome. Hope you're doing well. But yeah, basically, we quickly realized that as the button count went down, it wasn't very interesting. Also, thank you, Z. I'm glad to hear that. On the thing you said a little bit ago about the channel. But also true, as Shaq said, when I did these stream challenge, these challenge streams, I would only do the challenges that were like actually impactful to my play, like my capacity to play the game at all, like something like this, in a full stream party. So like everyone in the party knew that I was doing it, and they signed up to do that roulette with me. And they didn't mind. There was specifically, I recall there was at least 1 or 2 times where we did a duty where I only could walk. And it was only me that could only walk. But by the first boss, everyone had decided they were going to just walk too. Exactly. Everyone essentially consented to me doing the challenge, because it's not like I was going to be like, do you want to join me? Oh, by the way, I'm doing this challenge. Like, the stream said so. So it would be a pretty huge shock if you were surprised that I was going to do that. But when we did, like, for instance, Alliance Raid Roulette, I think the one thing I did for that was that I played it like this. Not really a challenge, but, like, that was the amount I felt I could justify with strangers being involved. I think when I did that, I even, like, my party was, like, like, all the DPS were summoners. Yeah, the difficulty there, Z, is coming up with something that is innovative and unique. Because a lot of challenges have already been done. But you can also, you know, just see a challenge you've already seen happen and take your own spin on it. Like, for instance, I don't know how many have done this, I'm sure a lot of people have, but you could already make something different from, say, Wrath with the soloing Final Fantasy XIV thing by playing through the game so, like, in the same way, but not using Warrior for duties where he used Warrior, for example. Like, not saying that that's unique, but it does mean that you're doing a challenge that you might not have seen if you've seen those challenges. Hey, McClunty, hope you're doing well. And thank you so much. I do hope I'll do a duty with you one day as well. But yeah, you don't have to come up with a completely unique challenge. You can also just, like, do a challenge differently. You can only move while sprint is active. Oh, that sounds really annoying. And really... Does jog count? Like, can you still run while jog is active, or is it only sprint? Walk only duty. But yeah, like, doesn't have to be unique, just something fun for yourself. Like, sometimes I do we have a solo challenge on this channel as well. And recently, that meant we ran Halatali as summoner. Because I actually don't remember why we went as summoner. I think it was because we wanted to solo it because it had been changed since I did it originally. And I didn't want to do it with a tank. Did you see the new site for special Fisher challenges? I did not. Back mages would have no problem. Thank you, Ardo. Agent Monica says, something random I've been thinking about Rath's challenge is, if he would have done Susano after the 7.2 Pictor nerfs, would he have beaten him? A funny story about that, Agent Monica, is that the timeline on this Susano situation, if I remember correctly, is Rath started his series. I made a video pointing out that Susano normal is unbeatable solo in Endwalker. Some person, I can't remember who, but someone did it with Ninja in Endwalker. Then Wrath reached Susano in Dawntrail, did it with Pictomancer, learned that a ninja did it in Endwalker, and then I learned that a ninja did it in Endwalker. I don't know if Wrath would have been able to have sufficient equipment to do it. Mr. Bright says single target Doton is clearly viable. Oh, just to be clear, Mr. Bright, the ninja didn't use single target Doton. The reason why I said it was impossible was because I specifically tested that and observed that Doton, it didn't just do too little damage. It barely did any damage. Like it was not even remotely close to enough damage. So it had to be another way. This ninja did it by just killing Susano straight from 40%. Just boom. Something like that. So, burst is the way. But I don't know if Wrath would have been able to get the gear required to do it. So I don't know if it would have been a problem with the Picto nerfs. I don't know. Maybe? I'll say Silvermint. Hope you're doing well. Didn't someone suggest trying to do it with Salted Earth? Same problem. No, he says, don't remember Susano fight. Why is it not? Why is it impossible? The reason why it was impossible is because Susano normal basically can animation cancel out of most of his mechanics if you push him past 40% HP or so. Something like that. I think it might have been like 35% times actually animation cancel, but he will do that and then go into an intermission where you have to intercept a sword. If you don't intercept the sword, he one-shots you. If you do intercept the sword, but you don't, like, beat the health bar of the sword, then he one-shots you. But if you're alone, you can't both grab the sword and hurt it. Unless you summon a pet that can do it. That doesn't work. Or you put down a placed AoE that can hurt it. But none of those are strong enough. Which is to say, Salted Earth does less damage than Doton, and Doton isn't even close to good enough. Or at least it wasn't in Endwalker. I don't think it is now. And your pet options is like Living Shadow. But the problem is that Living Shadow, as far as I remember, will not attack something you didn't attack first. And you can't attack the sword. Like, there's no possible way for you to attack the sword. Maybe if you like put down Salted Earth and summon Living Shadow, then the Salted Earth might provoke Living Shadow. But remember that if you beat back the sword, he does it twice. So, and Living Shadow won't live there twice. Like, it can only do it once. The cooldown is too long. That is why Dotson becomes the point of attention, is because that's the only one you can use for both waves. Salted Earth you can't, Living Shadow you can't. No other job has any horse in the race. So the only other option is just kill Susano first. And just straight up kill him first. And Ninja can do it. As it turns out. Jesus, Caetsu has officially gone 45 minutes without mentioning insert duty here, which can be soloed by Warrior, by the way. Well, I usually don't mention it that often. And indeed, Malediction, it'll have to do absolutely crazy damage for it to work. But that was exact, like, I do in my videos. I don't do it as much now, but sure. True. The way that I tested it back in Endwalker was I believe I grabbed Sip and had him tank so that I could put down Doton, or was it Salted Earth to test? And then I like calculated the numbers and came to the conclusion that the reason why I didn't like go into like huge lengths to test it was because the amount of damage done by one of them was so incredibly low that it like they would have to do like 3,000 potency at least to be able to do it. And I believe I tested by like using basic attacks to calculate approximately how much potency a Dark Knight in my gear had to do to break it, and then I put down Salted Earth and said, well, it does this much, like it does this much potency, so no, not even close. And Ninja wouldn't be able to either. Did you know that Warrior can solo this stream? Cat says, have you been to Lapis Manalis in Mental Roulette yet? Not since Dawntrail, I don't think. Maybe once? I think I have once. I feel like I remember I had it once. But it might have been from Endwalker. Nodal says I found one in April. There you go. Thank you. But yeah, that is true. I do point out when Warrior can solo something quite frequently. Part of the reason why I don't say it as much is because for a lot of them it's like for a lot of them it feels more relevant if I'm there as Warrior, or if I'm tanking or something. Thank you. Whereas if I'm like there as a DPS, it's like, and? What does that have to do with what you're doing right now? And I believe back in Endwalker, because I usually picked jobs a lot more like on a whim, it was a lot more likely that I was there as a Warrior, because I would often pick Warrior as my go-to tank. So I would be there as Warrior and be like, by the way, did you know? But it is pretty funny. There was actually a point where I had done it so many times that there was someone that commented that they were very tired of it. I believe they specifically said that they skip forward 10 seconds when they hear me say, did you know? Or rather, when I say, by the way. Which was then after that, I reduced the amount of things I pointed out. A little bit. And then later people were like, well, I actually liked it when you did it. And I was like, oh. If you've ever wondered why it might be difficult for Final Fantasy XIV developers to do what the players say they want, this is that in real time. I don't like that you waste time mentioning what warrior can solo. Okay, I'll do that less then. And then like 5 other people go, I miss when he said that warrior can solo things. Agent Monica says, to be fair, we are in the place where all the fun facts are given. True. Fun fact land. The flower garden. Also, McGlunty says, I've just reached level 82 MSQ, but I've been curious, how often does expedience get used in later content? It gets used quite frequently. A pretty funny... A fun fact about that one, McGlunty, is that when Endwalker actions were revealed, that meant that you saw white mages put down Lilybell, boom, and it explodes for big healing, as Solagian makes basically time and space warp, and then like a big explosion, and then a bunch of healing. Sage, which was added there, straight up does laser blast, right? Like just laser beam, kaboom! And then Scholar performs a wind fart, and then starts sprinting. I specifically recall that a lot of players were not impressed by expedience. But among those level 90 healer actions, Macrocosmos, as far as I know, the only change it has received since its release is it got a little potency buff to make sure it keeps up with Fall Malefic. Liturgy of the Bell was changed so that you can manually detonate it. Because you couldn't originally do that. Sage's Nevma got a potency boost to keep up with doses. So those 3, the big awesome ones, technically they got buffed in some way. Meanwhile, expedience used to be 20 seconds of sprint. It used to do all this, but the sprint time was doubled. Which means, like, expedient also reduces damage taken, but the primary thing it does, the unique thing it does, was nerfed by 50%. And it was the black sheep of the level 90 healer actions. So if you ever see like a expansion action reveal and people are like, boo, that action looks boring, that's the one you should watch out for, because it might actually be insanely overpowered. Some examples is that a lot of scholars will use it between pulls to help the tank sprint to the next pull. Sometimes they'll use it while the tank is pulling. It's a little hard because sometimes the tank will have sprint up and they don't stack. But it's very handy for reducing the length of a duty. Like, it gives Scholar a huge advantage in clear speed on duties if they want to. And consider that no other healer can do this. In a raid context, Scholar uniquely has this advantage, and this is important because for all 4 healers to be equally viable, there can never be a duty that requires that. Which means that Expedient will always be an advantage that Scholar has, that the other healers don't have. It's not going to be a requirement, but it is something that a group with a Scholar has over a group that does not have a Scholar. Also, thank you, Aerodil. Sarah says the people who enjoy stuff usually aren't as outspoken than those who don't enjoy, even hate something. Yeah, exactly. Just recently, so cards on the table on that one. I frequently search my name on social media to see if anyone's talking about me. And recently, there was this I believe it was a Blue Sky post, it might have been an X post, I can't quite remember, one of them, that made a joke about Warrior being able to solo the Hag from Baldur's Gate 3, and it was specifically preceded with a parentheses Kai voice. Kai voice, did you know? Warrior can solo. What's her name? Gretel? I was like, I was a month late or something. And by the way, on that note, Gretel spawns ads. So yes, if Warrior could be in Baldur's Gate 3, it would probably be one of the easier fights to solo. Z says, can you tell me if Expedient gives a sprint buff or a specific one? It gives a unique buff distinctly different from sprint. It's just that speed bonuses do not stack. I cover this in one of my, I believe my last Mythbuster from Endwalker. Multiple speed bonuses do not stack. You just benefit from the biggest one. I.e., if you're a ninja, you run 10% faster, but if you're benefiting from Peloton or Jog, you run 20% faster. Not 30% or, I don't know, 32% by multiplicative stacking. You just get 20%. And if you're sprinting, it's 30%. Again, even though ninja is 10% faster by default, it doesn't stack with sprint. And that applies for everything. Oh, sorry, Sarah's. Auntie Ethel, that's true. And Auntie Ethel, sorry. At least you knew who I was talking about. And yeah, that is exactly right, Alex. That is also why it is so funny that Expedient was met with such groans on release, because it's like among the 4 healers, like White Mage got an additional way to heal a crazy amount, Astrologian got an additional way to heal a crazy amount, Sage got an additional way to heal a crazy amount, Scholar got a way to run faster for the entire party. Like, they actually got something they didn't have. Cat says it's like a 7-second sentence. Complainers are babies. See, the thing is, that's what happened, Cat, is that they made that complaint. I thought, oh, I guess I'll stop doing it then. And then I think like 4 or 5 comments responded to specifically that one, saying, no, that's just a ridiculous thing to complain about. But it already made me think, yeah, maybe I'm doing it a little too frequently. And then nowadays I just don't mention it nearly as much. But I guess I should mention it more. It is you. Hope you're doing well. And yeah, indeed, it was quite funny that they just like pop Expedient and just run at the dummy. I have been told that the possible reason why some people were unimpressed was because there was not a second player to demonstrate that it was AoE. And it's very easy in hindsight to be like, Yeah, well, they should have known that it was AoE, because why wouldn't it be? Why would it be? Suddenly Skullamane's kept getting a craving for chili dogs. You know, an additional funny thing to that, Z, is that only move backwards. Like if you're doing it like with backpedaling, it's just as fast as only walking. So it would just be like a really obnoxious way to do a only walk challenge. I used to believe that backpedaling was slightly faster than walking. But then I tested it. But yeah, on a different note, this is probably a good time to wrap up the stream. So, can he find his things? Can he find his things? Blink. If you enjoyed this particular stream, it helps me a lot if you leave a like on it here on YouTube. That tells the algorithm this was an enjoyable stream, and like other people enjoyed as well, so thank you so much in advance. And if you'd like to be part of the Discord community server, there's a link in the chat right there. There you will find the weekly schedule where you can see what else is coming up in the coming days. I usually update it Sunday or Monday. And if you go to the announcement room, there are links to videos and streams when I put them out. And if you grab the reminder roll in the role assignments room, you'll get a notification whenever I post a video or stream, as well as an extra one around 15 minutes before stream starts, so you can catch it right when we go live. And if you'd like to support the channel even more directly, you can become a member of the channel, you can gift memberships, you can use the super chat system, or if you don't like any of that, there's also a Ko-Fi link in the description. It all helps support me and the channel directly, so I can focus on doing stuff like this with all of you. So thanks so much for the support. But that'll be it from me tonight. So good night, good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending where you are in the world, and I hope to see you all very soon. Bye bye.